Okay, good evening. Let's call this meeting to order at 6:59 p.m. Already a minute ahead of schedule. Fantastic. Let's join me in the salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please join me in a moment of silent reflection. Thank you. Sunshine law notice. In accordance with the provisions of the Open Public Meetings Act, public meetings may be held in person or by means of communication equipment to include streaming services and other online meeting platforms. This meeting is being held in person and through the Zoom meeting platform being broadcast from Borough Hall, 748 River Road, Fairhaven, New Jersey. Public participation for this regular council meeting of February 26, 2024 is available by call-in phone number or through web conference Zoom. Members of the public will be on mute until it is time for the public for questions or comments, which will be announced. At that time, the public has the opportunity to question or comment by phone or through Zoom by the raise hand button and will be called on at the appropriate time. Notice of this meeting was included in a schedule of meetings, which was adopted by resolution number 2024-13, sent to the Asbury Park Press and the Two River Times on January 4th, 2024, posted on the Borough website, the bulletin board of the municipal building, and has remained continuously posted as required under the statute. With adequate notice having been given, the Borough Clerk is directed to include this statement in the minutes of this meeting. Allison, may I please have a roll call?
Councilmembers Cole?
Yes.
DiMaselli?
Yes.
Bowie?
Yes.
Cole? Hatch?
Yes.
LaBarbera?
Yes.
Olson?
Yes. Thank you. Starting off, Chief McGovern, you had a request?
Mayor and Council, I request tonight, they move forward with a resolution to hire Michael Richards. Michael started his career in Keyport as a class 1 and then as a class 2. And then about 7 months ago, went to Highlands Police Department as a class 2 special. I'd like to welcome the chief from Highlands here and come to the department in Atlantic Highlands. And he's my friend, hopefully he'll be mad at me because we stole him from him. It's ain't true that he showed up tonight, but Michael was one of that special. And we took it from him to be a patrolman here in Fairhaven. His parents are here, his grandfather and family here. And I ask you tonight to strictly move forward with him.
Thank you. So we are discussing resolution 2024-55, hire police patrolman Michael Richards. Do I have a motion to approve? Motion to approve.
Second.
Allison, may I please have a roll call?
Councilmembers Cole?
Yes.
DiMaselli?
Yes.
Bowie?
Yes.
Hatch?
Yes.
LaBarbera?
Yes.
Olson?
Yes. I, Michael Richards, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same and to the governments established in the United States and in this state under the authority of the people, and that I will faithfully, impartially, and justly perform the duties of patrolman according to the best of my ability. So help me God. Congratulations. Thank you. So. Yeah. Oh, man, so happy. Yeah.
Thank you, Mayor and Council, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Yeah, I just found out what
I gotta be the public function to go into executive session and then.
I'm just kidding. I think
All right, just continuing along here, resolution 2024-56. Executive session, personnel litigation, contract negotiations. Do I have a motion? Motion.
Second.
Allison, may I please have a roll call?
Members Cole,
Yes.
Maselli,
Yes.
Chloe.
Yes.
Pat.
Yes.
Rivera.
Yes.
Paul.
Yes. Thank you. All right, at this time, we will be moving to executive session. We have a few topics, so we are gonna have to clear the room. Then you can come back in.
I think we're doing two separate.
We are. Okay. Yep. Do I have a motion to reopen, the general council meeting?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, thank you. Next up, we're gonna just skip over environmental commission report. We're waiting to see if our chair shows up. And we're gonna go to Girls on the Run event. Is anyone here from the Girls on the Run event? Okay,
More important than you get.
all right. As this race is getting bigger every year, we want to be sure the vendor addresses all the issues related to the setup, the cleanup, including trash disposal, as well as PD approval and participation and communication to the residents on the route and closure considerations. Is that accurate, Teresa?
That'll do it.
Okay.
The chief just asked that we'll contact him in May so they can kind of go over the logistics of the race and
Okay.
make sure that was.
Right now, we're just approving the event.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so someone have a motion to,
When is the event?
June.
Have we approved it
And
before?
once.
Yeah, they do it. They do it every year.
Daniel?
And
Yeah.
it's multiple towns come and run. from our-
But we're also
Every year.
increasing, rec is increasing the fee, right? Kristen? Rec is increasing the runner's fee.
We are, I think that's still for debate.
And that, the committee decided to increase it.
I think there was some miscommunication, right? I mean, we need to go back and, right? We were questioning why.
I'm in support of it. If we increase the fee, I just want to know where the increased funds are going.
That's
It's
what's
to
unclear.
Please.
Oh, since it's gone up that much?
Yeah.
Okay,
Trash removal,
got it.
we have to pay for
It's to
everything.
self-fund it.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
before? That's what Teresa wrote.
Yeah.
Do we have a motion to approve?
Motion, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Thank you. We have a request from the Fairhaven Business Association to post thank you signs the first week of each quarter.
I just have a question. Is that just for calendar year 24 or is it?
Yes.
I think that's, yeah.
For this year.
Yeah, folks. Any other questions? Motion to
Number.
approve.
Second.
All in favor? Anyone opposed? Thank you. We have a lawn sign request from the Foundation of Fairhaven for the Hoedown event and Fairhaven Day. One of those events is coming up and the other one is
You approved the
the Hoedown
25 signs.
in advance. And then the Fairhaven Day is June what? 15th.
No, it's the 8th, but they asked for a week to collect their signs.
Got it.
Will the foundation follow up with like volunteers and
No.
later voice?
The signs will be up from May 15th to June 15th.
Correct.
I'll be there,
Yeah?
absolutely.
Anyone have any questions?
No.
Anyone? want to-
Motion,
The number of signs is the same that we're used to.
Yes.
Okay.
Nothing's changed.
motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Thank you. Proposed farmer's market. Andrew, you can speak on this. I believe there were some recent email exchanges to looks like we're in pretty good shape.
Fantastic shape. I believe, yeah, we have two members here tonight. They've gone above and beyond. Insurance met with my approval. I don't know if they secured the insurance already. The only other thing that remains open is we have to just discuss with the chief with regards to street closures. And only other concern would be the DPW, whether the DPW is going to be responsible for moving garbage, or if they're just going to remove it at the time of, the closing of the event.
Yeah, so, do I need to come up there or am I?
You should give your name.
It's Diana Antonin, 92 Baton Road. So, Elise Casey, 263 Fairhaven Road. I spoke with McGovern, what's today, Monday, Thursday. All good, schedule locked in on his calendar. We'll circle back 2 weeks before just to make sure that we're set.
Okay,
Closure will be at the arborvitae's essentially, so after, we'll have probably two people working there.
okay,
That we can work all of that out. As far as DPW, we've given Teresa our word via email that we will, and DPW itself, that we won't be using them. So, our plan is to, in our contract in our application for the vendors, it stipulates that they are responsible for the removal of garbage directly in their plot.
okay,
Any garbage that accumulates by the town or by the attendees, we'll have garbage cans out there. Luckily, we're in the process of raising some money that we can include some standalone garbage cans for those higher garbage cans.
Our faces in the finals. Sorry. There.
And that's kind of it in terms of, we told them that we do not need DPW,
okay.
so you can take my word on that. I hope.
And you spoke to the chief regarding parking.
Yeah, Chief hasn't brought up a concern on parking. I mean, there's ample street parking on the back there. You can't park during school days, so Saturday is not, it's not a legal issue. The encouragement for us from a social media standpoint will be to make sure that the town takes advantage of the walking options, the biking options, heavy encouragement there. We're obviously gonna get traffic from people that are not in town, so we can outline the recommended places to park. We're doing this a lot on Instagram. We'll start moving to Facebook to get to a different demographic. We don't know how to operate Facebook anymore. And we started on Facebook, so we've got a little learning curve there, but that's kind of our hill to climb. But we will start to circulate a lot of the information that way as well, so that people not in Fairhaven and that are not on Instagram get that information.
Okay,
It's really gonna be driven by word of mouth and just say, in town, we encourage you to walk, bike, out of town, here are your options for parking, so. Insurance is set. We are planning a, art show at Bicentennial Hall in April on the 19th to raise, money for overhead for the police officers, for all of the things that we anticipate to cover our insurance, those types of things. It's, going to be, at Bicentennial Hall right before the, renovation, so it'll be kind of a last time to see it in its original space. We've got an incredible group of artists that are signed on, a lot of local artists, Luba Caruso, who lives in Fairhaven, people from the area. So we're just trying to figure out ways to make sure that we're engaging the community kind of cross category, and that was one of them. So we're really looking forward to that as well.
And would you mind, like, as it gets closer with the marketing, I'll call it, that you put out, just that, you know, we made sure it addresses any safety concerns, misperceptions, et cetera, have some ideas around that. Obviously, the communications committee is Kristen and Michael. But I just think the messaging is really important to educate, especially to, you know, teach the public. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And on that, we're, you know, like we said in the beginning, no dogs, like we're gonna be very strong about, you know, making sure that people understand this is, you know, our town, you're coming to our town, you're taking advantage of something that we're doing for you. So it has to be, you know, a bit of a quid pro quo in terms of the respect that people that come to town have.
Thank you.
What is the date of your art show?
The 19th, it's a Friday,
April.
April. See you there.
What do we decide with regards to the pass through from
Yeah,
Sickles?
yeah. You mean from, yeah, Sickle
Right,
out to
You can,
Messianic Temple. You're talking about the farmer's market, the foot pass through.
Yeah.
yes,
so that-
yes.
We talked to,
Good.
We're going to a walk.
we talked to McGovern about that fence. And we gave McNeil a heads up that this was happening and that we would like to use those locations. And I'll confirm, but I believe I have in writing that they were like, we'll just make sure that that fence is open for those dates so that it doesn't
Are you
bar.
still planning decals?
Yeah,
planning
absolutely,
that
yeah.
border and-
Yeah, once we get closer to date, we'll order signs, decals. We're hoping to utilize the lot on River when we first drive in to make sure that there's a sign there that brings people into town. You know, encourage River Road parking like,
Yeah.
as he spoke about, you know, that's a great place for people to park so that they can go, you know, parallel.
You know, even people who are not Fairhaven residents may still choose to ride their bikes.
Sure.
And with that in mind, you know, like I hope we have a lot of people on their bikes or walking. But Stickles has a very large bicycle parking area. And I assume that will be made available, but perhaps that's part of your communications, just like.
Yeah, we
you know.
could burn it afterwards and.
Yeah. You could do corral it. There's
Yeah.
nothing worse than walking around with your bike trying to shop at a farmer's market, so.
The good part is there's two entrances, so
Mhm.
people can come from the Oakway or from the Fairhaven roadway, so,
Mhm.
yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, we've got a lot of social media. That's on Elise.
Bike racks on both sides actually
Yeah.
too. Say the kindergarten.
That's right.
That's
yeah.
true.
Yeah, they have a lot, yeah, both ways.
We are rain or shine barring a lot of our applications have come in. We've given our vendors the opportunity to pay upfront at a discounted price. And a lot of them are taking advantage of it, which has been really nice. And we've decided that, you know, if there's catastrophic weather, we will cancel and refund them. We also have a really good turnout from local residents who have reached out and are taking advantage of our small business collective.
Right.
So we'll be circulating them in and out. We've got bakers and artists and giving them a platform and a place to sell. So I'm excited.
Right.
Only other item, we'll have to coordinate, the borough table with whatever we might eat.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
library as well, Kristen had
Library,
mentioned that the
yeah.
library, so between those, we've got a few additional tents. It has to be tented. That is
Okay.
our own stipulation.
Yeah.
So we can't, you know, break from that, but we'll figure it out.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Great job.
thanks.
Very
Nice
excited.
job, you guys.
We're excited. If you guys have any questions, I mean, we can get anything your way, but
Sure, I'll send you some.
yeah.
Does someone have a motion to approve?
Motion.
Whoa, they're fighting for this motion. That's a good sign.
Second.
Betsy stuck in with the second. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Ready? Yeah, we're gonna move to Environmental Commission 2023 Annual Report. We have our chair, Brian Rhodes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Borough Council, you. All right, so
I guess you all have a copy of it, so I'm not to get too deep into it, right? Working on the ERI, which is our environmental resource inventory, which we're gonna continue to work on. Jess Maria's, captaining that. Stormwater management, that's one of our big things to address in town, I think, from all our perspectives, especially people that need snorkels when it rains. Shoreline management, so we've been working for quite a few years to shore up the shoreline at Robards Park, the foot of the Normandy. That I'd love to get that done this year if we could. Green team collaboration, Kelly's here. We've been working very well with her and her team. McCarter Pond, finally, after a decade and a half, we got to hydro rake part 1. Part 2 should be completed by the end of this year, spring, right? Deer mitigation, that's another one, if you want to asterisk that one. Even people that are not, the big thing is the only way to really combat the deer is to put on and sponsor a hunt in town. And a lot of people, that don't understand it will get a little freaked out. I get it. They don't have the background that I do. It's a very effective program that has worked throughout the state, county, and other local municipalities. So I'd like to get Jody Powers, who is the biologist from NJDEP, here to present to you and answer any questions the public might have. That we'd like to do.
Right, didn't she do that or no? Am I missing?
Excuse me?
Didn't she come for that? or
She
what?
was here, she presented to the EC. She has not been
Oh, fair enough. Okay.
presented. She can do it as a small group.
Okay.
She doesn't want to get bombarded by, obviously, it's a big topic, and like I said, for people that don't hunt or don't have any,
Got it.
ideas on it, it seems like a big scary thing, and it's
Right.
really not.
Okay.
But it is something that we definitely, need to address.
But I think that's more the reason why, since most people aren't educated on it, that we need to do the education
100%.
to bring them to a place that a vote can be rendered.
Yeah, the big thing is that people right away, oh, isn't there another way to do it? Can we trap and move? No. Can we sterilize? No. They've tried salt licks and everything like that. And it's not been effective. So that's why the only predator that they really have is humans, whether it's a car or, hunters.
And I want to say one thing, to put it in context, the experts say that our natural area can support a population of what, 5?
Yeah, so we have about 200,
So that's how bad.
they estimate when we already, like I said, this has been going back again, 6 or 7 years. When we did the initial study, it wasn't as bad as it is now, but we kind of had the foresight that it was going to be because of the breeding of deer. Decades ago, it was like 1 per family unit, in breeding, and now it's like 3 or 4. Because the habitat can support, can or cannot support it. They can't support it from our perspective because we're feeding the deer, all our plants and shrubs and so on and so forth. There's what's called a browse line. If you go into any property from the floor to about 4 feet, you'll see it's all barren, and that's the deer eating it. I know we have about 8 or 9 next to my office. When we did a walk, Tracy was with us, we counted a dozen or so just in the bird sanctuary area. So it's not an issue that nobody knows about. And unfortunately or fortunately, the only way to combat it is to have a hunt, or we just deal with it.
Just, and I'll update the governing body with 30 seconds.
Yep.
Last year, this came up in a very significant way. I would say it sort of bloomed, and I don't remember the issue. It was we were dealing with like an invasive issue or it's an ordinance.
Or a councilwoman got hit by a bus.
Yes. So a lot of issues converged around at the same time. And the issue, what are we gonna do about the deer, came up really from the public, from our residents. The governing body at that time decided to ask the environmental commission to take steps and to help educate the governing body on what's next, what can we do? And so that's how, as the liaison, I worked with the environmental commission to have Jody Powers, official wildlife reps, come out, and I was one of the people who got the education that Brian's talking about, went into it very skeptical, came out, knowing a lot more than I did going in. And Michael, I know you had a similar experience. So what, we reported that back to the governing body at the end of last year or mid last year.
June.
Yeah, right, in the middle of last year, and it was decided at that time, the governing body wanted to speak directly with the Fish and Wildlife representatives. So that's where that currently stands in terms of the governing body's role. And then it's a matter of making those arrangements should the governing body care to take it up.
I kind of recall us wanting someone to come in here and them saying no.
That's what I thought, yeah.
There was some miscommunication, because Jody had said to us during the EC meeting that she was more than happy. She doesn't want to do it piecemeal, so if we can get her on the agenda, I can reach out or we all, whatever.
Who else has been
She also had a concern with presenting.
She doesn't want to get bombarded, right?
Correct.
So as you can
Do
imagine,
by way of Zoom, right?
or,
Mhm.
yeah,
Mhm.
I mean, however she wants to do it, we'll leave it up to Jody. But it definitely has to come from her. It's not easy for me to not be the expert, but I don't have all the initials behind my name, in that context. But somebody that's been doing it for 20+ years, it's definitely effective. There's never been a civilian hunter accident in the state of New Jersey. Or I don't think anywhere, actually, but I know definitively in the state, it would be bow only, lottery.
Let's
So
let
what-
Jody do that
So,
for
but,
us.
but yeah, so there is a way to do it, very, very controlled. That, I mean, even the parks, county parks, they're not closed when we bow hunt. There's 2 class 2s that are shotgun, they're closed up.
Let's just start with
So,
getting Jody
but yeah.
schedule and we can fit her into meeting.
Perfect. Navigate River, that is, my, domain, obviously, as most of you know, that is my backyard, front yard. We have made great strides in working with the, other municipalities and the state, again, New Jersey DEP, Bureau of Water Monitoring. It's a shellfish area, so it has to meet certain criteria for, shellfish. It looks like we're gonna get an upgrade, then I get all choked up,
Oh,
that we've never seen in the history of the data that we're starting to keep data, but going back to the 60s. So it's a very, very stringent, level that has to, and this is only for people who call, people are like, oh, what about the pesticide? That's not what we do. Not that that's something that doesn't concern us, but this is just from a fecal coliform, standpoint, that it looks like within the next year to 18 months, we'll be able to have an upgrade that we've never seen.
that's huge.
Sort of shellfish in the river, which helps us all, and it's basically the collaboration, and this will be a study, and we've already, Bill Hedendorf, who's become a good friend of mine, he's the scientist, lab rat, as I call him, who spearheaded this with me, and it's gonna be basically a nationwide study and can be cast out to the country on how it's worked. So Little Fairhaven has a nice little arrow in her quiver, in our quiver, Fairhaven partnership. So the big thing, we put together this environmental roundtable, which comprises of every committee, commission, board in the town. We try to meet quarterly. And we just collaborate, what do you need? What do you need? What do you see from us? What do you need from us? And then it goes back to council. We do need somebody there as a representative for council to bring it back to council. Otherwise it kind of doesn't work. So that's been a good collaborative effort on all our parts, and I thank everybody for, contributing to that.
Do you have a liaison or you're requesting a liaison?
It should be, it was the EC liaison, so it was Trace, so it's Bronson.
Because I never heard of the roundtable before.
We never knew it existed.
Well, I did
It
touch
just
on
started
it.
in like.
Trace,
It says it started in 2020.
Well, it started 22. They meet only quarterly roughly. And during the council reports, I would touch on the fact that they either had a meeting or were having a meeting, but they may meet 3 times a year.
oh, quarterly should be 4. So we met,
But how many
Should be.
meetings have you had? You had 3, I think.
well, we had a meeting in February, so it was the first one this year, so we've met this month. And then we'll meet again, 3 months thereafter, so, sometime in May. And then go down the line that way. So yeah, I'm gonna keep that a regular quarterly meeting.
I'm all for collaboration, but when you have this type of roundtable, unless there is process with all the different stakeholders and communication lanes, it will kind of be a little bit of like a round robin. So, I mean, I'll defer to you, Brian, but I just would like to see if this roundtable is meant to centralize the Natural Area Advisory Committee, the Bird Sanctuary, the Third Street Trail, right, and other entities I think seen in here, I think that's great. I love it. I'm on board, right? However, I think we need to have process and understand what that looks like, what the expectations are between the roundtable and the borough and vice versa and the council. I just think there's a lot more that needs to happen there than just running around there.
It's a work in progress. It's an idea that I came up with, that Ralph, was at the time the chair, and it's slowly, started and ran with it. And it's, it's a work in progress, and Brian and I can sit down and go through it, and, it should be some minutes taken and then reported back to you all to see, because a lot of our needs are the same, right? Whether it's zoning board with stormwater management or in the natural area or whatever, it all kind of comes under the EC. So we're the kind of the presiding body over the, that's why the EC roundtable. So yes, it should be definitely more of a collaboration with that and you got, no doubt.
Right, and I think that should happen before, right, we continue to have it.
Yeah,
How was the information filtered to this governing body after the last 3 meetings?
To the liaison.
Tracy,
But we never heard about the roundtable. So that's what, how did the information come to us?
In the council report, in
You
a
said,
cursory manner, because the conversations.
but how did we know it was from an environmental roundtable the last year and a half?
I would
How did we know that it was
say
a
it.
product of this group with different committees all collaborating together?
So there was one, just to clarify one thing, the EC is in collaboration with all those groups at their EC meetings. They also organize a roundtable quarterly and sometimes not so quarterly, which is fine, right? So, but that roundtable includes more than what is listed here, because these have to do with what the EC is in who the EC is in collaboration with, because at the roundtable, it also includes like a rep from the planning board, a rep from the zoning board, bodies that wouldn't.
My question is, how was that information filtered into us and us know where it came from?
Only in my council report in the last few,
my pose a question.
I'm saying your council report comes from the environmental commission.
no.
We have other information that comes from this roundtable. How were we to decipher over the last year and a half what came from the roundtable and what came strictly from the environment?
Well, there's no writer, there's no written report or report out. It's a fairly informal discussion that I called a roundtable. And in my reports, I would just simply touch on the fact that there was a roundtable that convened in discussions circled around,
If we're gonna get to a point where we're asking for a liaison, I agree with Councilman LaBarbera. There needs to be process here. We need to, maybe even set it up as a subcommittee of some sort, if we're gonna go that route. So I think we need a lot more discussion here before we
can discuss it, or you want me involved?
outside of that, to me, truthfully, like, not
100%.
that I don't value the opinions, but until we do that,
Yeah.
it's a group of people just talking.
Right,
Yeah.
it is, and I'd like, if Brian could attend, what I propose is that we have them all on the calendar now. So we know ahead of time, instead of saying, oh, it's April now, let's get the EC roundtable.
But it's not an EC roundtable, right? And I didn't know that planning board representation, zoning board representation, STC representation, this is far larger than an environmental roundtable. I'm all for collaboration, but I am uncomfortable. That goes against the very fabric of how our entire governing body.
You know,
that I
it almost-
believe it's
It
conflict.
ends up sounding like a second governing body.
Correct, because you have a planning board liaison, a zoning board liaison, a land use liaison, a STC liaison, and those are all different liaisons and committees and groups. And now you have one where there's representation from all these bodies that could potentially lead to a conflict.
well, there's only, in the meetings I attended, which is when I think you started it. Yeah, I was related. There was only one liaison there. It was from the host body, since I was the liaison for EC. I happen to also do Shade Tree and, Green Team and so on, but I was the only council liaison in attendance.
Totally, I get it, right? And I'll get off the point, but it's the fact now that planning and zoning are both in there, that changes the entire entire dynamic, that's all I'm saying.
It stemmed from a really good place because, you know, and I, being on the EC, we were hearing a lot of feedback that we wanted each group, each committee and commission to look at things through an environmental lens and understand what their issues are, so the environmental commission can understand them and that we're coming together. But I understand your point that we need to have more process behind this, and to make it of value to everyone who's attending, and to actually be able to make some of this stuff happen.
100%.
So is that just,
So just to be clear, though, that some of that is already done in the form of having a member that sits on the planning board that's already on the environmental committee. So for instance, that used to be Mr. Olson, now it's Mrs. Antonin, that they sit on the multiple boards, there's already that cohesion. So to set up a secondary task force voluntarily, again, it's not that the opinions aren't valued, but the fact that this body did not know about it.
I don't feel like it's a secret.
This is the first time I've heard about it.
I've mentioned it every single time.
First time I heard about it was 3 days ago in the form of a text message. Sure.
I'm with Brian on the EC and Green Team, and I'm at the roundtable. This, and Teresa, has shown up to one of our meetings before, so she had last year, so she's been at it. It is a representative from each of these boards, the Historic Association as well, just to get, and we're not talking about different government thing, only under the umbrella of what the Environmental Commission contains. So pretty much the number one thing that we all are agree on is stormwater. And we're not talking about zoning or planning outside of the realm of stormwater management. And in fact, that's where it also came with this idea that Brian Olson and I, from zoning, EC, also planning board, come up with a trifold of how to educate residents on low-cost options they could do on their homes, on to reduce stormwater management. So it's just under the umbrella of what has to deal commonalities regarding to the environment.
So if a bunch of you have a discussion from these different groups, then that information should be brought back to the Environmental Commission and discussed in a meeting. And at that meeting, the liaison should be able to take that information, report it back to the governing body. We don't need.
Yeah.
Right, that's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
We haven't had a meeting
We were
since
just
then.
talking about a request for a liaison, separate from that.
No.
No.
It's been the EC
So
liaison.
it's-
So there's no need for a liaison for the roundtable. That's what I'm saying.
No, it's not especially, it would be the EC liaison, which is what it was with Tracy. Correct.
And under my
It's the same
EC
liaison.
report, I would touch on the fact that there was a roundtable or that a roundtable was coming up. Generally, because the discussions are circular and amongst themselves and it's very informal, there's never any action, policy or strategic,
Just a roundtable discussion once a quarter to
yeah.
see
But
what the other
but this
needs
body
are.
was
Most
made
of the
aware
time
of
it's the
during
same.
the council report. I'm sorry, it seems like they weren't. I really did my best to make sure.
They
we were
weren't?
able-
I never knew that there was this roundtable to this extent, and the thing that makes me extremely nervous is the planning and zoning board representation. I have
It's
so many
the
questions with that.
So
It's
Not
all
aware,
right.
Chris, are you aware of this?
I'm not.
Todd,
rec
yeah.
committee is
Todd's been there,
Yeah.
rec committee's there,
Mark
Shade
Mancuso,
Tree.
right,
Historic.
historic association. So I'm surprised if they haven't
Parks
come
and Rec.
back.
I think what they're seeing for
Thank
the
you.
first
Further-
time is
Yeah.
that
So-
a description of the roundtable. So as I've touched on the roundtable that it exists and that
It
you
is.
met.
I'd rather, truthfully, I'm getting a little uneasy with the conversation. I'd rather
Yeah,
continue
we
with
can
the
talk
report
about it.
and move forward.
Third Street Trail, you all know what's going on there. The one thing that I was hoping we'd have more support, and I understand that the dynamics behind how the trail became and the individuals started to work on it. We had some budget monies and we wanted to try to support it, couldn't, but we can work through that. Harding Bird Sanctuary, I haven't really been involved much over there. This is just the action plan, quarterly volunteer cleanup, stuff like that, so that, I'm gonna leave that one alone. Natural Area Advisory Committee. They've put in their requests, it's not really it's under us, but it's a subset of us with the Natural Area Advisory Committee. So our goals for 24. Budget request, we don't have a large budget, we've never really had a reason to have a budget. Now we do because we support the green team, so that would come out of our budget. For various items that they do for, you know, Love Where You Live Day and such like, you know, so, events like that. Council, also the commission request.
So so I just want to come back to that, right? I just want to double
Yeah.
check. So if, from what I hear then is the EC is absorbing the green team and the EC.
The green
hang on,
team
let me finish, right? So you just said like, we need to have a budget now, right? Love Where You Live Day, right? You're hitting all these different things.
We have a budget.
Right, so has that budget always funded the green team?
Green team is relatively new, 2 years.
Well, a little longer.
Older than
3 years.
that.
Be an active. We've been
Yeah.
longer than that.
So,
Right, so what I'm trying to
We
get
were
at,
already under.
Yeah,
the green team is
Green
under the
team is
EC. The
EC,
green
yeah.
team is not a
And the
separate.
green team self-funded everything, so now they're trying to, all the volunteers, we were all
The
self-funded.
green team,
so green team was fully funded, self-funded,
Self-funded,
and underneath the EC.
yes.
Okay, and based on what he just said, he now wants, the EC now wants a budget dedicated to support things like that Green Team
No.
does.
no. What we do with our budget is up to us based on, you know, what our budget is there for. We've never really used our budget because we don't. We use the green team as an example, as boots on the ground, right? They're out there doing the signs, the Love Where You Live Day and stuff like that, where the EC is really just an oversight, right, of all these various things. The green team is under the EC and always has to be. That's the way Anjac has set it up.
Steve.
So basically, if we, you know, Kelly will come to us and say, hey, we need money for the stickers, right, for the recycling, right? So that shouldn't come out of somebody's personal pocket. If it can come out of the EC budget and we approve it, it goes to council, you guys approve it, that's how.
So he's just
So-
asking for more money because.
Yeah, I mean, we're.
Because again, the Love Where You Live Day, that was.
We've never asked for it because we never really used the budget.
Totally get it, right? I'm just trying to wrap my head,
Yeah.
right? And so I'm just gonna, so then, but what that then would mean is, right, then that all these other entities under here
I know.
would make their financial requests to the EC. And therefore the EC would manage the budget for every one of these entities and then go from there, right? So that's the,
Essentially, that, I
well,
mean,
not
that's,
essentially, right? If you can either have your foot in the pool or out, right? So. if-
well, I understand it, but we've never been in that position until now. We've never been in a position where these other
Exactly.
entities would come to the EC and say, hey, we need money, hence, we never really used the budget.
Mhm.
So that's why we've never asked for an increase in the budget, because why increase a budget you don't use,
Totally, right? So the fact that it hasn't been done yet,
right?
my recommendation would be that there's further discussion to figure out what the organizational structure is going to look like to support 3, 4, 5 different entities now taking their financial direction from the EC.
Right.
It's not just, let's put it here and then start doing it, right? Like, we have to figure out and have that down. So we don't enter up into an area where you come in to make a request and we feel blindsided and we say no, right?
100%.
So I'm not trying to overstep, but there's a
No, that's-
lot of process gaps here that I think need to be closed to set this up for the greatest success.
100%.
So one of the things I'm trying to do in these early meetings with each of these groups is help clarify what their purpose is, what their mission is, mostly for me. So, you know, I'm familiar with EC, but I wasn't as familiar with Shade Tree, natural area and so on. So it's a good time to discuss how all the pieces fit together.
And
And
the EC's powers and duties are spelled out in the, well, there's state statute that makes it possible to form an EC, but then, it identifies their powers and duties, which are collaborating with local informal bodies, kind of like what this whole discussion has been about, as well as, the power to ask for maps and actually shall cause to be prepared maps. That's one of the last things I see here, which I was excited about. I don't know. Steal your thunder, it's the last thing on here, but, one of the other major powers is to maintain the environmental resource, that's a duty, is to maintain the environmental resource inventory.
Mhm.
So those 3 functions kind of make up the purpose and power of the EC. That's why there are all these parts. You know, over the years, it seems the borough has passed resolutions to form informal bodies that have some sort of jurisdiction. Say, for example, the bird sanctuary or the natural area, or, you know, Third Street Tales is yet another animal. But the environmental commission is the only governmental mechanism that actually speaks to those powers and duties as a place for all of that to exist in one, under one, which is directly supports your point about getting it a little clearer.
But out of the Friends of Fairhaven, the only, as far as I know, the only one of these where there's a committee that's appointed by the mayor as part of the government is the Fairhaven Fields Natural Area.
Yeah.
I don't appoint a Harding Bird Sanctuary Committee or a third
Now,
trail
there was
committee.
a resolution years ago, that's all I know. They're appointed the garden club.
But who are the liaisons to these other entities, right? The Fairhaven Natural Area, the Green Team. who-
Carolyn Ferguson is.
No, the governing body liaison.
There isn't.
Davidson is-
I think it's all under the umbrella of the EC.
It's all under the EC.
Functional.
There's no Green Team liaison?
Well,
that's-
Kelly is,
Green Team-
but
Green
it's
Team
it's
liaison-
a subset of the
Green
EC.
Team is a subcommittee
It's a subset of this.
that probably.
They all fall under.
They all fall under
Which
EC.
is natural area.
They all fall under.
The natural area and the green team fall under,
Chief.
Fairhaven is, the natural area is its own committee.
Mhm.
The green team, is a subcommittee of the environmental committee. The other two, as far as I know, don't have committees.
there's
Maybe
no
they
committee.
do, but not as far as our government is. concerned.
Right, there's no organized committee for Third Street Trail.
So then is EC then going to provide the authority over these organizations? Like, is there even then a need to have like these separate committees, or are these different?
What do you mean by authority?
So like, then the Fairhaven Natural Area Advisory Committee
That's
would
its
never.
own, that's its own committee.
But there
But
isn't
based-
any-
can I just finish real
Yeah,
quick?
so sorry.
Okay, so based on the structure of what we're talking about here, right, that the EC is this overarching governing body in a sense that oversees all these different areas. Then to me, the natural progression is then the Fairhaven Natural Area Advisory Committee, although it is a committee, right, that naturally conflicts saying the EC has control over it, or whatever we're saying has over it, then they would never come to the governing body as only the Fairhaven Natural Area Advisory Committee. They would come as the Fairhaven Natural Area Advisory Committee with the support of the EC.
I
I don't-
tried to point out that I didn't think they were supposed to be what they
That's-
are.
That's what,
That's what
yeah,
I'm saying.
so there's some confusion there because Carolyn had showed up to one of our recent meetings. And, wanted some budget, and I was unclear, did she go to you?
Well-
Do they have their own budget? Or is it, bless you, or is it under our budget that they fall under? And I don't know
I
that.
have to separate two big words here for a second. Budget and authority do not exist.
Right,
The Environmental Commission has no authority. They're a cataloging policy body that exists specifically for this entity's benefit. Government created that piece of government to advise us at our request. So if we are interested in knowing the state of our environmental areas, we would go to the EC and seek their direction on it. What is the priority? What's rising to the surface? What's in, over the next 3 years, what are the issues? That's their function, not, they don't have any authority.
But he just stated that with the Green Team example, that their budget would be under
that's
them.
separate. That's separate.
Okay, but you guys are losing me then with what's
The
separate.
green
what's
team,
not.
the green, I'm lost a little bit too, Drew.
Drew, Drew, let me,
So
just so you know, in 2022, we were requested, when the Green Team came on, to increase the Environmental Commission's budget in the amount of $2,500. The governing body did so. We repeated that again in the 2023 budget. So the increased lift came in 2022 when the Green Team came into existence, and the additional funds that we used for some of the Green Team's activities were also in the 2023. And we noted that in the budget at the time.
So one thing that is important, as we're talking about this, is there are very different types of entities. So the EC has sunshine laws, public meetings,
Okay.
someone that takes minutes. The natural area does not have any of that. It's a committee. So it's very different, and I'm not convinced that they all fit together, so I'm sort of being quiet, 'cause it's very confusing to me, and I need to talk to a lot of people and think. Cause it's where the lines are murky for me.
Yeah, from my standpoint, I've never had the natural area come to us for budgetary
Well,
reasons.
I gotta actually, I don't mean to muddy the water even more. I've made comments to everyone that if any of these, I think the Third Street Trail fits in more with the Fairhaven Fields Natural Area
100%.
Advisory.
100%.
And it does with the environment.
And neither one of them
100%.
have a
isn't
single
the natural-
municipal resource attached to it. There's no staff. There is no, listen, I have given this such a great deal of thought over the years as I was the liaison for 2 years for all of these, you know. And I studied the mechanisms, the powers and duties, the statute that formed them, as well as, you know, fielded many of conversations from the Natural Area Third Street Trail. They don't have a pathway to connect with the governing body. Only boards and commissions that have been formed by this body have either a staff person or a municipal resource officer of some kind, like a Shari, or, you know, we have Bill Brooks, that was the Shade Tree Commission resource. These other groups, they're fantastic human beings working and volunteering. They don't have a way to communicate what they're doing and the status of the progress they're making and or the resources they may or may not need with this body. There's no way for them to connect. Except for once a year when they prepare an annual report, and sometimes they're on the agenda. So by, you know, the Environmental Commission is the only governmental mechanism that specifically states that they have the authority to collaborate with informal bodies. That's a direct language. And the purpose of that, I think, is specifically for this kind of situation. There are lots of great volunteer groups who are hard at work, but they don't have their resources or the mechanisms in place to connect with government, meaning this body. So
Isn't that the role of a liaison?
they don't have a
They don't have-
liaison.
That's what I'm saying.
The Environmental Commission has a liaison, and natural area.
The natural area.
The
Yeah,
Third
natural
Street Trail.
Brian's the liaison.
So, okay, but just for a second, try on all of his hats for a minute and just imagine, because I've done this. It's a separate conversation.
Right, so my position here is, let me know who's under my budget. Because when I go back across the street to Rice Wells Man, it's 350 people asking me for money. All right, I'm a giant piggy bank. It's their money, but I have. So let me know, and then there's more clarity for all of us.
That's a
right?
fair question.
To who, you know, falls under us,
It's a good question.
especially from a budgetary standpoint.
Don't leave out the last thing.
The last thing, what? What am I doing? The goals?
You've got a request for, to
Or when-
produce a map of Fairhaven's open spaces, natural resources,
Where am I?
which is a really important one, because we don't have.
Which one?
It's number 2 under your goals.
Oh, council request, yes, the commission requested the borough produce a map. So, we do have a map guru in, Jonathan Peters. So he is totally, you know, he's all into this thing. I'm in the charts, he's all into maps. So, we're gonna collaborate more with Jonathan to put together. Why, I don't understand where the council was
So,
coming to this.
Rich, what's
Because-
the status of our membership with the county GIS?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, what's the status of Fairhaven's membership with the county GIS map?
We worked on it a while ago and we kind of dropped it.
a while ago.
Can we set up
We have to
a?
reach out to their in-house personnel, to see.
But is our membership up to date? Are we?
Brian, you don't see a role for us in this discussion for the maps themselves? Can we do this offline, the last point? Let's do that. We got a lot of stuff going on. I don't, it's not that I would, but if you're telling me we don't have any role.
You know, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
I'm good, so thank you for your support,
Yep.
and, I'm going back to being homeless.
And I'd like to thank Brian for presenting, as well as all the work that the Environmental Commission and, all of the Friends of the Fairhaven Environmental Committee have put in during the year 2023 and continue to put in during 2024.
Thank you, Chris.
Very thankful, for all you. Okay, moving along. Where I was here. Here we go. All right, we are moving on to sale of borough property on Hendrickson Place. This is strictly to discuss the corner lot. The corner lot only, I believe that Andrew was gonna explain the process now as far as what's entailed.
Yes. So. We will be providing a legal notice for the sale of the property located on the corner of Hendrickson and Allen Place. Once we do that legal notice, we will have to have a resolution authorizing the auction of the property. Putting out, for bid to purchase the property. We have to have a resolution accepting the bid. And, awarding that bid to whoever the successful person is at the auction. Time frame. We're probably looking at the sale of the property probably in the next 6 months is the goal. So hopefully by the end of summer, the property is sold and we have someone that's looking to develop the property. I haven't created the legal notice yet, and I will be, working on that after we tie up a few loose ends on other projects in the borough. But we're just about ready to, put it out there.
Real quick questions, if we start the process and the market for real estate were to take a dive, can we pull back? Do we have to?
Not it. Well,
What's the point where once we post for the actual
once we
auction,
post, right?
can we set a minimum bid threshold?
Like a reserve.
In other words, you can't, you're not getting it for $100,000,
I'd have to look at that, but I believe so, yes.
Okay, that's my question.
Do we use a third party to represent us in the sale, or do we do it ourselves?
I'll be representing
agent,
the borough
so-
in the sale.
The last time we did it, we set a minimum based on appraisal was the minimum bid.
Anything else? Good? Good. Moving along, the Carter Pond Hydro Rig Phase 2. Ordinance 2020 Yeah,
I can speak to it, Mayor.
all right.
This is on the agenda. The borough passed ordinance 2022-08, in which they appropriated $200,000 from the capital improvement fund for two separate projects identified as hydro raking and related upgrades to the Carter Pond, with any remaining balance to be utilized for invasive species removal and public land restorations in Fairhaven Field Natural Area. To date, the total spent on the McCarter Pond hydro raking Phase 1 is $106,720, which leaves $93,279 available from the original $200,000 ordinance authorization. The decision on how best to proceed with McCarter Pond is really one that's related to purchasing and timing. For Phase 1, we obtained quotes from two separate vendors and paid the disposal fees directly to Monmouth County Landfill. If the governing body wishes to move forward with Phase 2, utilizing that same quote process, then we would have to wait until November of 2024, which is required under the 1-year time frame to go out for quotes again. In other words, when you use the quote process to keep it under the $44,000, the clock is a continual 1-year clock. It's not a calendar clock. So we couldn't go out for quotes in the spring of 24 because we just went out in December, or actually we took them in November, I believe. If we want to go out for quotes again and use the quote process, you'd have to wait till next November. Otherwise, your options are to go out to bid, noting that as part of the bid specs, the governing body can determine the scope of work, whether you want to do a portion of the pond, the whole pond, whatever the case may be in hydro raking. Considering that it will be challenging to get the bid awarded to start the work in the early spring, I would recommend either requoting it in November or putting it out to bid over the summer. We presently have additional monies in the 2024 draft budget, which would allow us to allocate another $200,000 to McCarter Pond and any other project that the government sees fit, if you choose to do so. This would also enable us, or enable you to use all or a portion of the remaining $93,279 that was appropriated to be utilized in the natural area, if that's what the governing body chooses to do so. You do the same thing in the natural area if you so desired. You could get a per diem quote for removal of invasives. You could figure out what that is and then, get two quotes And then ultimately, as long as you didn't award over $44,000, you could do it in that, in that mechanism for that same remaining funding. So they're really your options. You can continue with Ricardo Pond on the quote threshold and wait till next November, or you can pull together bid specs, decide what those bid specs would be.
Would we be able to go out to bid during the summer? And if we don't like the bids that come back, still go out to quote in November?
Let's see about that.
As long as the scope of work was different, I believe so. That's more of a legal and a purchasing question that we could cross that bridge when it came. So the only reason you can reject a bid is if it there's several reasons, but the most notable one in this case would be if it exceeded the budget that you had in place. If you only had $100,000 you went out, came in at 150, reject all bids.
Hey, T, that 106, is that?
The balance of that 200,000.
No, the balance is
No,
93.
it's 100.
The 106 is what we spent.
Question.
The 200,000 was the amount just that was set.
Authorized by.
Yeah, that was the American Trust.
We used 106.93 is left. That's what.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
Are we losing any money by, like, does it charge us more money, or like, does it cost the borough more money if which way is better for us?
It's hard to say, Councilwoman DiMichele. When you go out for quotes, you get 2, sometimes 3 quotes, and you pick, the lowest quote. When you go out to bid, sometimes you get fortunate, you have 5 or 6 bids, and you go with the lowest bid, and you get a good rate. Sometimes you get 1 bid, and it's higher than you want to pay. And if you don't reject it based on funds available, you end up paying more than you would like. Sometimes you get a bidder that doesn't really have a track record.
But are we losing any benefit to like waiting too, though? Like, are we making things worse and then we're gonna have to do more work later?
I actually, is it possible, and maybe this is something we work with the EC on, I believe that there's some rules in place in the pond where if an area is transitioning, you can't hydrorated it. But if you go in there and you manually cause it to no longer be transitioning, you could then hydrorate it after the fact. So my only question is, do we take the time this spring and summer to maybe seek out some volunteers? Betsy, I'm sure would be more than willing to go in there and the waiters, maybe with some shovels. I don't know what it entails. This is not my expertise, but go in there and detransition the area to get it ready for November. And maybe we get a better result for the entire pond.
I'm 100% on board. My only concern with waiting till the fall is the transitioning that's happened. I'm not good with geographic, right? Whatever the north tip closer to your head, right? Like, so I'm 100% on board, and I will help support putting that together personally with Brian.
I think there's a couple things, did you want to comment on? What we should acknowledge right up front is McCarter Pond is not done. There's more work to be done there. We also have an outstanding housekeeping item, the bank restoration, simply the cleanup along the banks that didn't happen after phase 1 has been on hold until we do phase 2. But the idea that that was going to happen, well, at least in my mind, that was going to happen sooner than later. That piece of work would have to be addressed if we decided to wait, to use volunteers and then go to requoting. I'm comfortable with the quoting process. We have enough lessons about putting this out to bid that we'd have to really take that apart, maybe at committee level, and come back to this body with a recommendation. That I'm looking at Drew thinking that's something maybe we can get into. I can't even make that decision right now.
I agree with you on the bid. I like the idea of dredging to stop the transitioning to prevent that happening, and maybe that's a stopgap until we can get that. Because we also have an executive session topic that might be impacting this as well,
So I want to talk about Teresa, did I hear you correctly that there's the unspent money on the project, 93,000? Can the natural area tap into a portion of that? I believe the key number is 44,000 for some projects that they want to do to handle invasives. At the last meeting, we talked a lot about various projects. Is that available? And if so, what do we need to do to get them to be able to tap into that?
Well, you would need the governing body to otherwise give their blessing to it. it gave it in so much as when they did the ordinance allows that to happen.
Yeah.
Because we named both projects at the time, we talked about McCarter Pond, and then if anything was left over, we'd give it to natural area.
Well, it would be used for the removal of invasives, which of
Right.
course occur in the natural area.
Yes.
And many other locations in Cary even.
That's true, but I'm fairly
Yeah.
certain the ordinance did actually state
Yeah.
invasive species removal in public land restoration and Fairhaven Fields Natural Area. It was particularly for
I
that.
remember that because that deviated from what I thought was the spirit of the motion at the time. And because the invasives issue, obviously invasives don't follow boundaries like stay in the natural area. They're everywhere.
You certainly could amend the ordinance, Tracy, but that's how it was written at the time.
It was written down.
So if
Yeah.
I bring an ordinance or a resolution, excuse me, to the next meeting, is that will be the next step?
If the governing body decides to take a resolution and say that they want to allocate a certain amount of funding towards that, they certainly could do so. We have the funds in place.
But then we'd have less funding for hydro.
Yeah. shouldn't we
Yes,
just-
that's a true statement.
That's what
That-
ours
that-
We have 200,000 already funded for the phase 2 in the
We
24.
actually, I didn't say it's already funded. We have a draft budget
No,
that
it's-
has
it's-
that amount coming in through the capital improvement fund. It's an offsetting, revenue.
I thought we have 93,000 available.
That was from what we allocated in last year's budget, Josh.
Are you saying there's a new allocation?
Of 200.
In 2024, we have the final $200,000 tranche.
So
It doesn't
so
exist yet.
we don't have to use it though. That's. good.
Yeah.
We don't have to use the $200,000 in the 2024 budget right now. All we're talking about is the 93K. If we approve the 2024 budget and that line item's in there, it is, but as of now, it's not.
Aren't we looking for ways to reduce the 24 budget?
We're looking for ways to reduce what's within the appropriations cap.
Right, and this is in.
And this is not.
This would be outside of cap, correct.
This capital.
Because that's part of a different fund.
Correct, and there is a whole separate
And there's another-
conversation we have on outside of cap improvements we want to make with some excess reserve we have. But that conversation should not be conflated with determining the fate of the original intent of this money, which was do hydro raking and then
Invasive.
whatever was left in basis.
Are we all okay with the plan to potentially put together a group of people to study whether to manually
Yes.
stop the transition, and then with the plan of November going out to hopefully do the whole pond to
Yeah.
finish it off?
Well, can
Right.
we
Happy to
do
be
some
on that.
working sessions, a little bit more granular on how to actually tackle?
Yeah, because if
Not
we-
with the volunteer.
If we find out we can't do that, then we're gonna have to
Yeah.
pivot the plan, so yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, there might be state rules, some of that, yeah.
and in the meantime,
Who's doing the you want to take volunteer events since it's EC? And then Trace will take November,
yeah,
since it's McCarter Engineering DPW,
yeah,
and then we'll come back at the March meeting to see what we've come up since then.
okay.
Okay, moving along, solid waste and recycling bid.
I'm sorry, sorry, Mayor. Did we want to do those things before we discuss the use of that 93 for some portion of it for the removal of invasives in Fairhaven? Keep that separate until we do those first two things?
Right now, we're focusing on the hydro raking of
So we need-
McCarter, which will help us to determine whether we can use those funds. And we also gotta work out the budget. Make sure.
Yeah.
Correct. All right, we're talking about the draft bid specs here. Go through, I don't know. Who's Rich? you
I'll
taking-
take a lead in on this. As you know, we've been meeting with our internal group, myself, Rich, Nick Paczynski, Nancy, Allison, and DJ, who work on draft specs. We also had the mayor and the Engineering and Public Works Committee join us via Zoom for some discussions. We also have had multiple drafts go back and forth amongst the group. And we're here tonight to see if we can at least get some input from the governing body, not to talk about the bid specs detail, but to make some decisions that'll help give us some guidance. Rich and Nancy are, have items they want to go over. And Councilman Rivera has, I believe, something he's prepared that you have in front of you he'd like to talk about. And that's the lead in.
Rich, go ahead.
Good evening. I think the first thing we want to just talk about is why are we here tonight? We're here because the current contract for trash, collection and recycling collection is ending June 30th. So we've had a 3-year contract with 2 1-year extensions. So we bid this last time, I think in 2019. So here we are, and we're kind of late in the game here, you know, approaching March. Obviously, we've been working on this outside of this forum, but we're also looking at ways to be somewhat creative, understanding where trends are going with cost, looking at what the borough needs are to continue this service. And as it relates to the curbside trash pickup, recycling, the trash in our parks, the trash containers in our downtown, the recycling center. Also looking at the various changes that are happening with our new facilities as it relates to the community center coming online at some point, the new PD, the new layout and function of DPW, and all the other stuff that kind of comes into play with this. So what we were kind of tasked to do was to put together somewhat of a proposal, I believe you have in front of you, looking at how do we really bid this, this project, as we call it. Obviously, there's a 3-year option and a 5-year option, and then you have the option of doing a 3 plus 1 and 1. Nancy could speak more to that because some of that is public contracts law and purchasing. We obviously, as Teresa had mentioned, we worked with Drew and the mayor and Tracy had logged on to a Zoom call, I believe it was last week. And we've also spoke about this at our DPW and engineering liaison meetings. And then obviously through Teresa's office, continue that dialogue as well. So if you want, we can go through some of this. If you have questions on how we came up with this. I know there were some other documents circulating on some of the other ways you could do this. And also we want to point out is we did look at other towns and municipalities. We looked at recent bid documents. We looked at how they bid the projects because, as you know, trends do change. Technology changes, the way you do things change. We wanted to kind of capture all that. So the other thing is we needed to collect the data. You need to look at the information that we already have, tonnage of trash and recycling that we currently collect, the number of cans in our parks, the number of cans in our downtown, the number of residences. You have to go and look at census data, the number of households, all that comes into play. The number of cans that our business district generates, meaning the businesses on River Road and some of the other interior streets that have businesses. All those cans somehow get collected, and when you bid something out, the bidder needs to know that information so they can appropriately attach a number to what it will take to provide that service. Now, in the prior bid, we had appendixes that had mapping and the zones and information on all the streets and the number of cans and how many were automated, how many were not automated. Yes, we have all that information. We're taking it a little step further to give them additional detailed information. Actually, tomorrow I'm scheduled to go, weather permitting, take a deeper look at some of the downtown. For example, we need to introduce recycling into the downtown. Right now, it's just trash. So those are the tweaks and the balances that we're trying to come up with. So having said that, we've developed this document. We're proposing, and it's not a traditional bid where you have, like when you see me come before you and say, okay, the base bid is this, and these are alternates, or these are options. A lot of this is bid and structured where you can actually spell out the options you want, and the options are gonna include X, Y, and Z. And then you could bid it in such a way where you have option 1, option 2, option 3, and then you can also include alternates for those add-ons. For example, if you want to add additional bulk collection pickups or whatever it may be. So having said that, we all know what we need. We need to collect the trash curbside for the residents and the recycling. It comes down to frequency. Is it once a week? Is it, first keep it as is. We know what we have now. We have once a week curbside and it's considered solid waste or trash. And then during the warmer months, we go to that twice per week pickup. Right now, we have recycling 52 weeks a year. We have bulk collection where folks can put their stuff out at the curb 10 times per year. We also know in the bid, we have a need at the recycling center for the vendor to bring a truck, remove the dumpster with the commingled recycling, bring it out to the disposal station and bring back an empty dumpster. Simply because we don't have that truck and we don't have the method to do that. And then we also have the downtown and our parks. The parks in the downtown, we have the figures on how many cans there are, many of which are non-automated. So it's a different method of collection. You're not going to see the larger trucks pulling up to Fairhaven Fields to empty those cans. You're going to see a different vehicle, whether it's a smaller garbage truck or some other type of vehicle where the guy's getting out or girl's getting out and running around the fields and, you know, collecting those cans and disposing of that material.
And what is the frequency of that?
That's done weekly. And then during the warmer months, we have it spelled out that they do it at the same frequency of the curbside. Okay. So having said that, and this is a proposal, kind of the first shot proposal for us to present to you, where we try to look at it, and obviously from feedback off the Zoom call and other discussions. What is the need of the borough? What is the need of the borough while looking at the fact that we know the cost is going to go up, looking at the other bids from the other municipalities? We know that.
Yeah.
We have the data to support that.
In some cases up to 50%.
And in some cases up to 50%. So the first option, whether it's a 3, 5, or 3 + 1 + 1, talks about solid waste collection, trash collection once a week for 52 weeks. For residences, the same for commercial businesses. The third piece of that is our parks in downtown. 1 per week for 52 weeks. Recycling, this is where there's a change. Recycling would be twice, every other week. So right now we've got 52 weeks a year, this would go to 26. Then you've got the recycling for both the parks and then also recognizing we're gonna add recycling to the downtown. That would be consistent with the same as curbside recycling every other week. We call it bi-weekly. And then bulk pickup. And once again, this is coming off some of the feedback that we've gotten, going to 4 times per year. So basically quarterly, March, June, September, November. And then the roll-off service that we need at the recycling center, and that would be cost per pull as needed. The 5-year contract would be the same structure as with the 3 + the 1 and the 1. And then this is where it gets into the alternates. Well, the first thing we have to say is what alternates do we need? And you have to rank your alternates based on priorities as per the finance laws and public contract.
Yeah, well, so you have to rank them in the order that you would want them. You can't pick 1 and 3. You can't bypass 2 to get to 3.
So we can rank these however we see fit, but from from our standpoint, the alternates would be the second collection for the parks in the downtown, which would be basically from that May to like end of October window, so you're capturing the peak season of any sport. Then your trash collection, both from residential and the business district, to add that second collection as we have it now during those summer months, which is basically mid-May to end of September. And then also plugging in the additional cost if we were to keep recycling every week. So then you'll have a figure on the additional 26 weeks for recycling collection to compare those numbers. Now, once again, this was just a draft that we kind of formulated. There's other alternatives you can look at. I know the three of you guys were involved with some of the feedback and the call and the Zoom call that we've had and even discussions we've had through the liaison meetings that we conduct. I know Nancy's here. She's got some data too. If you need any figures on tonnage or trends on costs from other towns.
What other towns do we compare ourselves to?
We looked at Belmar, Highlands, Eatontown, we've got the figures from Manasquan, Neptune City.
Not like Rumson, Middlesbrough, or Shrewsbury.
We didn't have any recent information from them, no. We tried to get information from other towns that have recently gone out, because it makes a big difference.
Makes sense. Okay, thank you.
And we also tried to, like, Eatontown is not at all similar to Fairhaven, but the way that their bid is set up, we like that. It was more detailed. We got a cost per unit basically, which is good to know, so we have some idea. And then we look more at like Belmar, Manasquan, smaller towns, not as much business as Eatontown may have for like overall pricing rather than unit pricing.
When you talk about adding recycling to the downtown, you mean where there's municipal garbage cans, you're adding a separate garbage can for recycling?
Right now, the downtown has no recycling means.
But that's what you're talking
There's
about,
no
right?
receptacles.
So will we be replacing the current receptacles with dual receptacles, or will we be putting an additional receptacle?
As part of this exercise, we're gonna look at the best fit that works within the downtown, not to cause any issue with pedestrian flow. ADA considerations, the width of the sidewalks, we need to look at even placement of the cans, whether or not what's out there even makes sense. Having discussions as far as with our business district folks to see what the wants and needs are. Looking at the numbers that we have based on the number of cans. But to answer your question, a more consolidated type unit that would be dual for both trash and recycling.
Is this the idea to add recycling to downtown? Is it environmentally driven? Is that the reason we're discussing this? Or is there another reason that
The reason for me is the fact that we don't have it. We've done all these improvements within our streetscape. We have a bid that's going out as it relates to solid waste and recycling. Now's the time, because it's gotta be collected. The timing is such that it would work.
What are they currently doing?
We don't have it.
But I mean, what do they?
Goes into the trash.
Goes in trash.
Or
so
people take it with them, put it in a recycling container and they.
the reason I'm asking, and I'm not an expert on this, and it's based off a 60 Minutes episode I think I watched like 7 years ago. But I was under the understanding that a lot of these plastics are now just being shipped over to China. They're not even being recycled. So that's the only reason I'm asking the question. And I could be, and I'd love to engage with the environmental committee just to make sure that I'm, you know, I could be well off on this, but I also don't want to install and spend a lot of money and commit to something based on environmental impact if there's no real impact. So that's not really a question for you,
Yeah,
Rich.
yeah,
I'm just talking out loud.
Sure.
If we're gonna make a material change to our process here, I wanna make, and we're gonna do it for environmental reasons, I wanna make sure there's actual environmental reasons that make sense. It's great to do it, and give ourselves a pat on the back, but I want to make sure we're giving ourselves a pat on the back for a reason.
So it was a Washington Post or New York Times article, and what happens is plastic is shipped to Southeast Asia. And it piles up and it's either burned or pushed in the ocean.
Yeah, I mean, and again, I think we need to probably dive into more information than just land on one article, but if we look at a lot of data. And that's the feedback we're getting, I'm not personally recommending that we get rid of recycling in Fairhaven, but I'm not sure that we need to add to it.
Yeah, by the way, that's just plastics. Aluminum, there's an economic system that makes it rational to recycle. The plastic is not.
I believe 85% of all aluminum is still in the system from 1980. So you're right, aluminum is something and maybe that's the answer, maybe we add aluminum recycling to the downtown and we bypass plastics, but I just think we don't have much time here, I'm just.
Well, what do the other towns do? Do the other towns have downtown receptacles for recycling? Just out of curiosity.
Yes, but I think if you just look at the numbers for Fairhaven. We normally have 80 to 100 cans non-automated between our parks and downtown. About 12 of those are within the downtown, so it's a small percentage of all facilities and parks. So I don't think the number is gonna skew the bid too much, but I just thought maybe now's the time to at least have the dialogue and discussion. We know that the receptacles even in the downtown need a little,
Yeah.
sprucing up as well. We have Clean Communities Fund, we have mechanisms that could fund some of that. But just wanted to bring it to attention.
And would you foresee the trash can filling up faster if it's half and half? Because.
We haven't looked at how many gallons or volume of what the size can would be versus,
It's a separate whole assignment to do that, and we're spending time on it, but I understand why you can't give the answers, because there's a lot of variables.
So how many years ago did we get those original trash cans and planters? 10,
2009.
2000, long time ago. So the chances of us being able to even match them are remote.
So yeah, we're 15 years in.
Yeah, so,
I mean, the vendor still exists, the brand, but
and they're pretty big. They take up a lot of room.
pretty big. But
If
there's,
you-
there's
you
other
know-
products out there, yeah.
So we would have to consider going to completely new receptacles. Maybe that.
And we have a mix of receptacles out there too. We've got the older style and then we've got the 2009 style. So you've got a mix and I mean, we can talk at great length on.
Right, we don't need to have that conversation now.
Receptacles, whether they should have a plastic bag or a liner or a lid or, a blue cover. I mean, there's a lot of different stuff.
Solar powered, compact.
Right.
But I do have a question, and I know I've brought this up before. About that our federal parks, our state parks, our county parks are all carry in, carry out. Why is that not something we can consider? And then we wouldn't have to worry about trash receptacles. If people were responsible, when you go to Sandy Hook or you go down to the Pine Barrens, whatever you bring in, you're bringing out. That's the law.
Well, that brings up a good point. It's not necessarily something I can answer, but I can answer it this way. As part of the bid, we're looking at making the trash cans and recycling cans in our parks more efficient for both the user and for the person emptying them. And what I mean by that is location and placement. By putting a can out by third base of a ball field that you can't even see from the parking lot may not make sense. It makes more sense to put it at the entry points of those parks. Similar to what you're saying, carrying in and on your way out, you throw your coffee cup in the trash. And then the truck can pull in the parking lot and be on its way.
Why not just
Without the
bring it to
need
your
to
car?
go 300 yards to the back. And even from an enforcement standpoint, a lot of these cans, we can't even see whether they're overflowing or not, or they were emptied or not. And as you know, that's the majority of the complaints that we get.
Yeah. People
So
send pictures.
as part of the project, I didn't bring all my sketches and numbers with me tonight. We mapped a lot of this out on our facilities and parks. And we met with, folks in my department, DJ's office, administration, looking at the 80 to 100 cans that are out there. Also keeping the aesthetics in mind, because as you know, every year, for whatever reason or season, next thing you know, there's 10 toters out of Fairhaven Fields. Where'd they come from? They're up against a concession stand, they're in the middle of the playground, they're dragged out to the ball field. How does this happen? Where are they coming from? So those are the things that we're trying to reel in as part of this bid, because it's a numbers game. We have the data, we know what's required. How do we balance it? So that's my point on parks and the downtown.
Usually that user information can inform design decision, whether we realize it or not. Those users are trying to make something work that doesn't already exist there, so maybe there's some good info.
I first want to commend everybody, Rich, Nick, Nancy, Allison, Teresa, for the initial draft. I think it is a step in the right direction for that creativity that's required. I'd like to provide just 2 data points, and then there's kind of 5 pieces I'd like to try and close out this week. And I'll provide kind of that feedback. So since 2020, inflation's up 19%, just to give you kind of context. That's the latest number, right? And then the recent anecdotes is that these solid waste and recycling bids are coming back a 50% increase. So with that, there's a few things that I would like consideration to look at, and for the engineering DPW team to meet further this week, with the hopes of trying to get the bids done in such a way and authorized out to bid. If we could do the first meeting in March, great. If not the second meeting, because the bid has to be out for 60 days minimum, has to be. So I love like the CAN location and the optimization and what that looks like. Can we decrease it? I would like, when Kristen and I met with Adam Pugney to talk through like recycling, he mentioned a myriad of other levers that we potentially could leverage, such as the county getting rid of e-waste for free or grants that exist. I just think it's something that we should do the due diligence on when we come back here. I'd like to understand too, if there is a similar process where residents, well, not residents, excuse me, where we can have garbage picked up manually, right? Whether it's at the parks or the downtown, brought to DPW and then disposed of. I know there's transfer stuff there, we gotta talk to and everything. But the same way that residents can bring recycling there, the same way we use it as recycling, and then the company comes in and remove it, I just wanna understand that. I do think we can add in additional menu item pricing in here. And the only reason I say that is because these 3 options don't help us discern how much once a week whole town pickup would be versus picking up the town over 2 different days. And the reason I want to highlight that is because this has been something that we've talked about at the governing body level of we might exclude certain people who can do it only twice a week versus once a week. And the more flexibility in the bid, I think, is really important to see who's going to bid on it. And then the last piece is, I'll word it this way, is I'd like to see some additional analysis on FTE support, just call it that. We have a lot of changes going on. We have the new facilities coming online, right? And I just want to make sure that we're thinking through that. So my request is I'd like to work with Tracy and the mayor and Rich and Nancy, Teresa, Allison, et cetera, on these 5 items and see if we can come up with an updated component here to hopefully move towards an authorization of it.
I'd like to add a couple of thoughts to that, because you know, structuring a bid document, I know will be in good hands. I know that my main goal in terms of what we get back from any bidders is that this body is able to, and I think Drew, you said this already, but to be able to discern, if we know costs are gonna go up, we have to know, as you rightly said, what is the base, what's the minimum non-negotiable base that we have to provide in terms of services. And that everything else has to be so clearly articulated in the bid document that we are able to understand. If we're gonna add something, it's gonna cost this, and it's gonna be worth it, and we need to be able to explain it to our fellow residents. So I'll just leave that there in terms of the bid document. Whenever, I'm of course a little concerned about the cost increases that I believe we can anticipate. I think you've done a lot of really good homework on this, and it's concerning because it's already a tight budget. So in every situation where, you're up against a wall, there's usually opportunities. So I like to think about this in terms of goals. And, I think that there's what's been taking shape, at least as this body continues to meet, whether we're talking about brush and leaf or stormwater or, now garbage and curbside book pickup. But the one thing that kind of comes back over and over and over again is we want our streets clean. We want it to be environmentally clean so that we're not seeing lots of debris wash into our river. Fog storm drains contribute to micro floods here and there. We want it to be visually clean. We don't need cans out on our streets every day of the week. We're a little town. And we need to be functionally clean because when there's piles of stuff or cans in the street, it affects the route, the joggers, strollers, walkers, and bicyclists have to choose. And sometimes their choices are not really safe. So I think, even though we're looking at an important piece of contract and it's gonna be expensive, I think we could probably also look at what problems can we solve? And with that in mind, and I appreciate what Drew's saying about making sure we don't isolate bidders who can only do it in 2 days, but I would prioritize a single day trash pickup. In that there's one day when those trucks come through here and they pick up all our cans and they pull out of town. I think the added, it would be beneficial to not have large trucks moving through residential neighborhoods all throughout the week, more or less. So as we're thinking about what's best for Fairhaven and how to structure this bid, there could be some upsides. It would be very advantageous to minimize trucks, reduce the number of days we have cans on the street, and think about how we can make it cleaner overall, visually, environmentally, and functionally. So it's not all bad news if we can accomplish some of those, goals, and obviously hold the cost down as best we can. And that was my contribution for tonight on this. I know, can you, Allison, tell us when do we need to have this in front of the governing body for?
I need to authorize the bid yesterday. So the 11th, no later than the 25th.
Ideally, March 11th, so to go after that.
March 11th.
Because it goes out and then you have 60 days before the return of those bid responses to come back. Then the review of Rich and the attorney, depending on how many response.
And then the time at the end for the transition, if there is a transition from one vendor to another. We can't tell them 1 week, okay, now Delissa's gonna pick us up and Suburban's done.
There's a learning curve.
There should be a transition in time that's needed there.
Okay.
They need to ramp up.
And are we anticipating these policies like, are they in to the extent that?
Currently, we've increased the budget to what we anticipate.
Okay.
Unfortunately, right now, last year, there are exceptions to the budget. I'm not gonna get too far into that.
Sure.
Last year, they allowed us to take garbage and recycling. This year, they're stating no.
Okay.
However, I was recently on a webinar with somebody from the LGS. And they are aware that people who took the exception last year for garbage and recycling, now a number of towns are going out to bid, which is causing large increases. So potentially, they will look at it on a case-by-case basis.
Okay.
So Colleen is already aware of that.
Okay.
Once we have some more information, she will, she'll talk to the people that she needs to see what we need to do to be one of those people, but one of those broke towns that's reviewed.
Okay.
So there, fingers crossed, we may still be able to take some of it out of cap.
Okay.
But for right now, we are anticipating that it's all gonna be in cap.
Okay.
With the caveat that the last year exception was added to our cap base.
Okay.
So
We're trying to understand what the impact is gonna be to the taxpayer, but let's not go there.
it's all gonna depend on.
I know.
Sorry, I took it too
Notice
far.
that again, last year exception came out of our cap base.
A percentage of the increase
Came out.
came out of the cap. And that was then added into our base cap this year. Now, the question is whether or not we're allowed to take a percentage again this year.
Will we have that?
Different discussion.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
So the work that remains. I'm looking at. Rich.
What I was gonna ask for was some feedback and direction. Based on what we're proposing, just look at this, look at the line items that we're proposing. Obviously, we're talking about going to do the whole borough in one. That was just discussed. And then to Drew's point, we can add an option to keep it the way we are, the way we have with the zones.
I literally, so I've been, to give you that direction.
We wanna pick away at some of those.
Yeah, so I've been doodling on this one, right? And I think if we add 1, 2, 3, 4 lines within each of the options, we'll get all the data that we need. So for automated solid waste collection for residents, we can do one time per week at 52 weeks, 1 zone, or at 1 time per week at 52 weeks, 2 zones.
Right, or entire borough.
There would have to be a whole nother option.
For sure, then, yeah, but I think we could very easily tweak this, and then you can have a 3-year contract, 5, 3 + 1 + 1. And then that would solve every single question the governing body has asked as far as being able to define it. So I'm more than happy to send it to everybody, and it's aligned with the feedback everybody's got. No, not all of it, no, I think this is 85%, 88%, especially with what Rich is doing right now. But I think it needs very, very small tweaks to get all the information we'll need. Because what was great about Eatontown said, hey, resident, we spent X on our contract. If we did this, it would have been $543,000 more. If we did that, it would have been $300,000. And we want to be positioned with that.
Right.
So I think Rich, Nancy, Allison, Nick, and Teresa are 85, 88% there. I think there's literally 4 pieces of mine to get us there.
My only feedback personally, I'll probably be by myself. I don't see a need to add recycling downtown personally. I also think that we can shorten up the 2-day-a-week alternate to just be for summer, for Memorial Day to Labor Day. May 15th, it's, it starts to get hot, but it's not brutal. And in September, I think there's been a few times I've even said to myself, oh, we're still 2 days a week, like just not feeling like we need it.
Wait, sir, where do you think we need to?
Mayor, that's for the residences, not the parks.
For the residences, right,
Thank you.
so, on alternate 2. I'm assuming that's the dates we do now, right? So we do May 15th to September 30th. I guess I'm eliminating 2 weeks on the front end and 4 weeks on the back end. Where so,
Yeah.
that's,
So we'd have to, I understand the way the alternates work, but my concern is now if the mayor doesn't like, or anyone else doesn't think we want the recycling in parks downtown. And we don't use the alternate 1, then we definitely aren't doing alternate 2.
then we wouldn't be able to use
Yeah.
2.
So if you maybe want to, I don't know if you want to separate that.
Well, aren't you able to do the alternate? You can change the alternate priority.
Yeah, we can change, this is just a suggestion, it's one
So
priority.
we would just.
But not after we put the bid out, we have to do it
Right,
before. we put the
right,
bid out,
yes.
right.
Yes. So there's already recycling in the parks, correct?
No.
Yeah, so there,
No.
But it's
Yes,
just the down, it's just the downtown.
it's just, that- so that's why we would want to keep some, because if it exists, then we need to keep that in there, just, it wouldn't be downtown.
I know, so should we
We have
separate
parks.
parks and downtown? Or is that? not-
Well, I would really like that committee to discuss carry in, carry out. Because.
We can.
Are we limited to 3 alternates? We have 4.
No,
No, you can
You
have,
could strip out the second half of 1, recycling to downtown and make it alternate 4. Would that do it?
We have to agree to put it out to bid by March 11th.
Okay.
So there's not really much room, right, because it's 2 weeks from today, right?
But
Yes.
I'd also like to, while we're talking about the parks in downtown, and I think it dovetails with what we're talking about right now is these are the 80 to 100 unautomated, which means it's two people in a truck, one's driving, one's dumping off, one's picking out the can, dumping it in a truck, and they go to the next one. Of the 80 to 100 unautomated cans, there's some in the parks and there's some in the downtown. If both of those, which we know because we get the calls and pictures from people, you know, we know that those need to be picked up certain times of the year, need to be picked up more often than once a week. If particularly summer and through the fall yeah, so I don't even want to get into the minutia on that, but we can say that once a week isn't adequate for much of the year in those areas. So if those were carved out and we brought that in-house, which I know is kind of a big deal. I'm aware of where we are with DPW. We also talked about steps we need to take to shore up DPW and our crew. It's one of the most important departments we have that services the borough and our residents. So, but if we imagine that that was a separate envelope of responsibilities that was managed more on a, if we handled it in-house, our crew would know what activities are happening when, what events are taking place. Oh, the rec programs are really kicking in. We're going to need to monitor that, send somebody out to do the cans, and the service can be tied to that ground level knowledge. And I'm suggesting that that be part of this so that our DPW crew can pick up those trash and recycle as we have it available and bring it back to DPW. I understand there might be some issues with that, but theoretically, that would be we would deliver better services to our residents who complain all the time, in fairness, that it isn't adequate enough to pick up. And it would clean up that base bid in hopes of getting a really, hopefully as tight a number as possible for what it would take to minimally pick up trash and recycle once a week. So I'll just throw that out there now. Obviously, they'd have to, the contractor would have to go by DPW, pick up the bin of all the stuff that's picked up throughout the week. Once a week, they'd have to stop at DPW, collect that as well as the residents' trash recycle.
Would we have to buy a garbage truck then?
No.
So, but there are some items that may be discussed around that. The first being that then we possibly, and this is something that we need to research, become a transfer station.
I realize that.
Which may require permitting from either NJDEP or the county. So that is one thing, and we don't know if we would be able to determine that and you get the permit, if we decided to go that route, get the permitting in time prior to the bid, because we are so late. But the second item that does come up is where are we putting this? And thinking about what garbage comes from the parks, the majority of it. It is at pet waste. So you're bringing that to DPW, putting it in a dumpster that is not watertight. So water can get in there, which then can also create odors that are hard to manage. The water leaches through the waste, goes into the groundwater. So there's other things
I think
to,
this is what the definition of a transfer station encapsulates. So you're not explaining anything we don't already know. I'd like to know, is somebody looking into it?
we just came up with that today.
Okay,
So we have not as of yet.
that would be important.
But I think the
So if-
logistics of it needs to be.
I know, I won't let this go. If a large percentage of the waste in our parks is pet waste, that should be the responsibility of the owner, of the person who brings their pet into the park.
Do you have a dog?
No.
Carrying that around town is not.
You know what, that's your
No, I
choice.
know,
When you
but
have
it
a
is-
dog, you're responsible for that dog. You wouldn't take a diaper and just throw it away, you wouldn't fling it.
No, not flinging it, sorry, I was talking about putting it in the receptacle.
Well, some people just drop it right there.
Whatever, like, during the summer months, there's a lot of garbage, there's a lot of, porch bottles, food, pizza boxes.
I think it does depend on the section of town. On the dock, the summer, you know, that's the problem with the garbage on the dock. Fairhaven Fields, it might be more spring, fall,
Spring, fall.
sports driven. Based on the
It's
people that are,
it's September and October for soccer and baseball, and then it's April through May.
right,
Those are the problem months.
So
And then the camps.
it's pretty well known. It's a, you know, we know what we gotta do.
okay, so just to recap and where we're at here, okay? It sounds like we have a good base. We do. Sounds like we're gonna explore potential other addendums to that base. You know, get to where we need to be. We're also gonna find out additional information about the transfer station. We're gonna consider Betsy's plan, take in, take out, see if that fits in at all with placement of cans, maybe, for instance. Less cans, less opportunity to just drop things. Is there anything else we're missing here as
No.
far as to go forward?
No, but
You said we have to have this done by March 11th. Is that right? That's our next
It
meeting?
gives us enough leeway, because if we go to March 25th, then the bids would come back by May 25th, and then we have, Memorial Day weekend. And so,
March
Yeah,
11th
we
is our
basi-
next meeting? You
yes,
said? So, but
Need
we don't have
authorization.
authorization. We don't have to be out to bid on March 11th. You're saying we need to vote at the next meeting to go.
yes.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah. Can we just rule one thing out? Cause that's something I need to do. We need to do.
Okay.
Is the governing body right now? We pick up garbage twice per house per week in the summer. Is the governing body on the same page that we won't extend that to the other months? I.e., we're not gonna pick up garbage twice per resident per week
For the
All
year.
year
for the
long.
year, all year long.
I don't think anybody.
No, and if you were gonna do it, I'd put it as the last alternate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That will really help kind of clean things up a little bit. Okay.
In a perfect world, let me say this out loud, in a perfect world, I would love that for our residents. I just don't think with the increase in pricing of the garbage, it's realistic.
Yeah,
We've also never had any complaints, really.
No, a little bit, but it's not widespread.
Right.
Right.
just want to put it out there. And then for bulk pickup, we're at 10 per year.
Thank you.
Are we all in agreement with reducing the
So
number?
3? Yeah, I would do 3.
Okay.
Our last feedback was 4, once a quarter.
All right, we'll do 4.
Do we want
I
to put,
wanted 8.
do we want to put in the alternate additional ones to see what the
I
extra?
don't know 3. You might be able
It
to.
can't hurt.
I think as an alternate, I
As an
think we
alternate.
should put it,
Perfect.
I personally, just to see what the cost would be, so
Okay.
then we can share.
So that takes care of,
To go to what?
I'm sorry, what was the alternate?
So the base bid would be 3 or 4, I can't
Right.
know. The
Let's
base
do
would be
4.
4.
bulk pickup 4 in the base bid, alternate 4 additional times per year.
Just for the record, my problem is not the cost of it.
Right.
It has nothing to do with the cost. So the alternate +4 to me, I'd rather not even do that. I think I think our town looks like a dump 10 times a year. There's just stuff everywhere. It's unsightly. We're living in a world right now where there's people that sometimes you don't want committing crimes in your town based on car theft and stuff like that, and you don't know who's driving through your town. I don't see a reason to extend to that many times.
So I hear you, and the beautiful thing about what we're doing, right, and that they put together is that it's gonna be a menu item. And we will be able to have further discussions on what we agree to do, but at least we'll have all the data and it won't hold up the bid process.
It's still
You
gonna be
also
an
have to make sure
alternate,
that
Joe.
it's in priority.
Still gonna be an alternate, correct?
I just don't wanna,
Muddy the water.
yeah, muddy the waters and make it more difficult for these companies to bid on this. Unless I'm wrong, maybe I'm by myself. If there's no support for it up here.
My concern is that essentially it's gonna be seen as taking away a service, because it would be taking away 4 pickups. So I would at least like to know the 6. I would like to know the dollar amount that goes along with that, if we are making that decision.
I think the increases are going to force us to
Yes.
have to cut back, but let's find out. But as we perhaps need to decrease certain things, there are pluses like cleaner streets, safer to traverse, and
This is one of the questions is the ordinance is gonna get introduced at the same time. This is gonna be very confusing. We're gonna figure this out.
from a communications standpoint.
Mhm.
a lot.
Yep.
Awesome. You good?
Great job. Truly, you guys did phenomenal work.
All right, moving along, bid for Maple Avenue improvements. Teresa? You still good?
Yes,
Yeah.
Mayor. When the governing body will recall, when we awarded the bid for the DPW facilities, there was an alternate in there for the Maple Avenue improvements, which were designed as part of that project. The cost came in the high 400,000, and that exceeded what the borough engineer's estimate thought the road project should cost. So the governing body ultimately did not award that alternate. However, we still need to do the road improvement projects on Maple Avenue. We don't currently have enough money authorized in a straight bond ordinance for roads to cover the engineer's estimate. So what the finance committee talked about at our last meeting was that we would propose to the governing body that we have bond counsel amend the original facilities bond ordinance to include the Maple Avenue improvements. We will not be increasing the total debt authorization in that bond ordinance. All we're just changing is the description of the bond ordinance or the scope of work to allow us to award the Maple Avenue bid. And ultimately what you're doing here is if you had awarded the alternate, it would have come out of that bid anyway because it was part of the facilities bid. But since we did not award it and we're peeling it off, we just need to change the language in the bond ordinance, noting that we are saving money in so much as that we are going this route, putting it out to bid separately, but we're not increasing the facilities debt off governing body originally.
So Teresa, are you saying that just by changing the language, we can accomplish
Yes,
Maple Avenue, and we don't need any extra money because the money's already in the original bid?
that's not the
Or
original
bond
bond
ordinance.
ordinance. Yes,
Original bond ordinance. That makes
Yes.
sense.
Good.
and it would be like any other bond ordinance. Bond counsel would draft it for us. We introduce it probably at our next meeting and adopt it. At the following meeting, there'll be a 20-day estoppel before we could actually authorize going out to bid for that project.
Makes sense.
All good. Thank you. Moving along, public comment on agenda items only. Please stand and identify yourself by clearly stating your name and address for the record. Please do observe a time limit of 3 minutes. I'm just mentioning I'm going to be a little bit tighter on these 3 minutes moving forward. We've made some changes to the agenda. You'll see the committee reports are also not there. So it's not targeted at any specific situation or individual, just trying to tighten up these meetings so that we have more attention towards the end of the night. Okay. Thank you.
No preference to answer very, but I just wanted to, 3 items. One is the brush ordinance. I just had some comments, and in the interest of time, there's some verbiage issues, there's some conflicts, contradictions, and issues that I think should be addressed before the ordinance is actually passed. So here's a copy of it. Anybody a copy if they want. I do want clarification, or I would like to know in terms of the definition for brush. It's very stringent and speaks only strictly to tree limbs, branches, and twigs, and makes no mention of any other woody yard waste. And I think there should be some inclusion of other yard waste, such as woody vines or a dead shrub that you have, or whatever it happens to be. If it's not a twig, a stick, or a limb, it can be removed.
Yeah, but wouldn't a vine be an invasive?
We're
That's
not,
yard
invasive
waste.
is not even in here in terms of what
Yeah.
it's invasive or not.
But what's
We're talking about whether it's woody or herbaceous, and we're saying that
Yeah.
we have a whole definition on yard waste. But the other things that's a conflict in here, we say you can't put yard waste in your brush, but then when you get to the section on prohibited materials to be put in the trash, it's now prohibited from being put in the trash. So it's not-
That was fixed. I sent you a text earlier, an email earlier.
Okay, but-
Yeah, but
So
that was
those-
fixed.
there's a couple of things about that. Oh, okay,
Yeah.
Fair.
We all saw that, but yeah.
so there's a couple of things, and you have them, that's fine. The other thing I wanted to know, the trees that were removed from the site on Hendricks,
Yeah.
is that the site we're talking about selling? Is that the same one in the same site?
It is,
Okay,
that is correct.
so who removed the trees?
You mean who actually physically removed them?
Well, I want to get you, who paid for the tree removal?
The Borough Fairhaven paid for the tree removal.
I guess my question is why? Why would we remove the trees prior to sale of the property?
We're
And
looking,
why would we have the developer?
we're looking into what happened here, what transpired and how that came about.
Yeah, I mean, I won't even talk about the huge trees. Okay.
I'm not,
a taxpayer, I'm just not
Bill,
sure why
I'm
the
not,
developers buying the property, that's a hint. That's not-
Bill, your feedback, is shared by me personally.
Okay,
But we're in the process of getting to the bottom of who, what, where, when, why. And, you know, I'd
I have
rather,
to have a tree removed, that costs a lot of money.
no, he didn't ask about the habitat lot, he asked about the corner lot, correct?
The lot where the
Yeah,
trees are
he's-
removed,
he's
that's
asked-
the lot we're selling.
Well, it's
That's the-
it's a subdivided lot, so the one lot, which is where the habitat, which I don't really want to discuss because that's not an agenda, is that an agenda item?
No.
It's not an agenda item, so I don't want to discuss the lot, but the other lot, I
When
share,
heard we're selling it
I
for
share your
$1,000,
concerns. The first I found out about it was probably when you found out about it.
Okay.
So.
The other thing is, I just want to mention the issue of deer mitigation. I'll be on the record that I think it's a critical issue that we have to address. 3 deer born in my backyard last year, and I ended up with Lyme disease twice in the last 2 years. So it's a real issue. People don't want to talk about it, and yes, they're wonderful and it's great, but I did a lot of research and we are way beyond what we can sustain. People, if you're a deer lover and you want to say that the deer were here before us, there's 100 times more deer that were here than 100 years ago. So,
Thank you.
and I know I fed them all from my yard.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you. And we'll get, Jody to a meeting.
Yeah.
We want to hear from
Great
her.
thing.
Anyone else in the public? Yes.
Bonnie City, 115 Baton Road, I'm one person, so we're both members of the advisory, Urban Fields Natural Area Advisory Committee. Correct. And just listening to the whole discussion on McCarter Pond and what is left over, and reading the resolution that was just found about how it would appear that 93 is available for the Fairhaven Field Natural Area Advisory Committee to use for invasives. We just had a professional come in to advise us, following the park system's recommendation, we want to get a second opinion on what to do in that northwest corner that was just cleaned out. And this is a group called Weeds Inc. They came highly recommended. They worked at Country Club, a lot of other areas. And they gave us a plan for, which pretty much followed what the park had recommended, treating the area and then reseeding it. And we really want to restore this to be part of extension of the natural area trails. And I mean, right now it's awful, because they just took out all the invasives and, so we want to restore it. We would love to be able to access some of that money that would appear to be available. We have, already have a budget, of what he expects the, cost to be. It's probably, $1,500 of treatment, followed by $4,000 of reseeding the area from the fall, and then some treatment maybe next year of about another $1,500. And then, it will probably need some trees planted or some other, work, but, we did already just kind of get this whole thing put together and, would love to see some funds approved.
Yeah, so we do have this project Weeds Inc. It's our specialty, removing invasives. The DPW has our quote, Teresa's aware of it. The DPW is supportive of it. They feel like they use techniques and equipment that the DPW doesn't have, that this company can come in and do it much more efficiently and reasonably priced.
For this year's portion of it, it would be about 6,000 to 6,500. The borough already has the quote, it's ready to go. You know, we looked at that original ordinance and it was allocated a piece for the hydro raking and a piece for removal of invasives. It wasn't really worded that one goes first and we get whatever's left over. So if you were willing to consider spending the money, we do have a project ready to go for $6,500 this year. That would make a major step in our restoration area. It's all about removing invasives. It's exactly what it was designated for. So we just wanted to put that on the table and see if we might go.
As the liaison, I do think it'd be money well spent. I mean, they're willing to use community appeal money. That's how much they believe in it.
I do want to point out that, in order to qualify as a capital project, it would have to be, you know, a large scale, you know, invasive removal, as opposed to just, spraying, an herbicide. Spraying an herbicide would not qualify as capital. So we probably have to split that up into what we could do under capital and what we'd have to do under the current fund budget or under, community appeals money.
And just to be 100% clear, 1,500 of it is for herbicides, 4,000 is for seeding, which prevents the invasives from recurring.
I think I saw the invoice you sent over, or a quote, that should not be invoice, the quote that you sent over from Weeds in their Pennsylvania company, correct? Okay.
Carol, can I just ask a question? Is this a one-time deal or would it be something we'd have to do every year?
I think for next year, they recommended coming back for spot treatment. I mean, obviously, weeds don't just go away. I mean, we have them when they came. We
They're
actually invited the garden club. We went over to the bird sanctuary and looked around there with him, and he gave them a little budget for the knotweed that's in the corner there. We went to Thursday Trail, looked at that. I mean, so we were trying to kind of involve everybody in this project. I mean, I'd love to get the parks looking at that patch of over by the gentry that's all full of knotweed. I mean, so. I mean, but the intention is not that it happens every year. It is, the idea is that it gets seeded, that blocks out most of the weeds, the invasives from recurring. Anything that still pops up gets spot treated next year, and that's the end of the plan. After that, it should sustain its own.
Okay.
Based on the expertise we've gotten.
We will discuss it along, obviously, with Brian, the liaison. We need some more information, which I think we discussed earlier tonight on McCarter Pond and what the plan is there. I'm not saying that one's prioritized, but the more information, the better as far as trying to figure out where the funds are going to, and we'll continue the discussion. Right? Thank you. Anyone else in the public comment?
Hi, Stephanie Adams, 230 Oxford. Betsy, I love your idea of carry in, carry out.
Thank you.
I think, you know, the problem would be enforcement. It's hard to get the kids to even bring their stuff to the cans, but, you know, maybe with some sort of communications program, as always, the Green Team would be happy to help. The other point that I wanted to make, some of us volunteers have had this conversation with the borough about ways to reduce plastic waste at the fields. And one of them was to add a second bottle filling station down at the bottom of the fields, down by field, excuse me, field 4 or field 3. We've talked to baseball about it. We've talked to residents about it. There's a lot of support. I know that we also were trying to throw in a hose bib to get some water for Third Street Trail, but the issue remains one of the best ways to cut down on plastic waste is to cut down on people bringing in water bottles, Gatorade bottles. You could sell powder packets at the concession stand. So I would just encourage the governing body to reconsider that. I know I'd spoken to Rich about what it would take to actually, you know, you'd have to do some digging and, you know, spend some money, but I don't think that it would be onerously expensive to do. And I just wanted to make one other point on the recycling collection. You mentioned maybe doing an every other week as an option. I think this is a 3-year contract.
But I don't know if that makes sense during this year when we don't have access, when we're actually having to put cardboard in our cans as well. That might take up too much space for residents to only have a collection every other week, so I just wanted to.
Just to
point that out.
clarify, we don't know the length of the contract, we haven't put it.
Oh, okay,
So there's
Oh,
different
right.
options that we're looking at.
okay, so maybe for the year that
Could be 3,
Perfect Wind can.
2 options, 2 1-year options, it could be a 5-year, there's different things that we're exploring as far as that contract.
All right, just something that this year, when cardboard's going in the can, it might be an issue. And also, dear, love that you guys wanna, hear more about that. There's a real health concern. With their wild animals, they're living way too close to us. If you start looking at wasting disease, people are asking questions, is it dangerous to humans? So I think that, you know, it's really time to deal with the problem. So I appreciate you guys considering that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Josh, can I ask a quick question?
Yes.
Staff, second. I have a quick question. So if we did just, I know there's a lot of background with the water filling station, would that also be a water source for Third Tree Trail? Would
It
that
could be, yes. What we had looked at different scenarios. One was potable water.
Yeah.
That would need to come from the concession stand. We'd have to put in is the water that's on the baseball field where Knollwood plays. I think that's well water. We also looked at just using well water for a hose bib for the trail, but the reality is a bottle filling station with a hose bib solves both problems.
Okay.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie. Is anyone else in the public comment?
Elise Casey, 263 Berry. So going back to McCarter Pond real quick, you said 106,000 spent, or was it for the whole pond, half the pond, or what got done?
I'm not sure,
I'm not,
It's about 25%, just based on the aerials that I looked at. That's a,
With the whole 106,000 spent on that 25%.
yes, it was for the vendor for 10 days worth of activity, and of course we took out 165 tons of the vegetative waste, and that had to be disposed of.
Oh, that's interesting.
Okay, and there's 93 left over for the remaining 75%.
No.
no, we have another phase coming.
That's
It would be
phase
a phase 2.
Oh, that's a 200, okay.
Well, for the 2024 budget, it'd be 200,000 more.
Potentially.
As far as potentially, the 2023 budget was $200,000, 106,000 has been used.
Yeah.
And there's 93 remaining.
And then 24 is 200.
Well, we had,
Potential.
Okay.
that there's more work to be done.
Yeah.
So what portion of that work gets done this year and how much that will cost? I think those were your two.
are you asking how, what portion of the pond is complete?
I saw,
portion-
I watch it because I live on the pond, so I watch it. It seems like from the parking lot to like basically the halfway point is what they tackle.
They did, yeah, I mean, they did a little bit more on the inside of the pond past that halfway point. They didn't do that, and then they didn't, halfway in the pond, there's still some edges that I don't think they really completed either.
But we knew they weren't going to be able to do that whole.
We went into this knowing that this was 10 days, I think.
And we were gonna learn from
Yeah.
it and.
Do you have a grasp on how much it will cost you? So I guess I'm missing a piece here.
What's your?
As far as what?
So if they did half of it, technically, like the remaining would be the same cost.
No, they're not sure yet. I mean, it's still in.
Some of the ponds are more transition than the part of the pond that they worked on. So
So we don't have a real grasp on what the remaining costs would be necessarily.
I think that if we asked our professionals to give us a, you know, from this to this, we could probably get to some sort of estimate, but if you're asking right now in the moment.
So Mayor, on that note, I would like to break down the 106, because I thought the 10 days was like 30 or 40 grand. And then did we spend 66 grand on tonnage of removing?
We'll get the information.
Yeah, we'll get the information. I imagine it also includes some sort of engineering fees as well.
Check, okay, cool. You good, Elise?
Please. Anyone else in the public comment?
Carol Ferguson, I'm calling the court from the Natural Area Committee. At one point, we did offer to take the spoils from the pond and dry them out in the natural area in the former nursery area. Was that no longer appropriate, or is that something that in the future could save costs, or?
We don't know, we'll have to talk to the engineer that was tasked with the hydro raking project.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in the public? Public comment?
One thing I just
Oh,
forgot,
boy.
just real quick, the lead report, if you did read through it, he starts off with saying, the number one problem in Fairhaven is here. That is the problem that has led to all the other invasives. I mean, he walked through the bird sanctuary and he said, you have a lot of, it's one of the oldest virgin forests in New Jersey. He said, yes, you have maggots and trees, but you have no baby trees in the deer and everything. So nothing is going to replace those trees naturally, ever, unless we do something about it. So he has list after list of deer programs in all different counties and towns in that report that he sent along with it.
Who has the study if we're interested in reading it for ourselves? How can we get the report he prepared?
Well, I can send it to him. He sent it to me. I he
Does Nick
said
have it?
he gives. Well, I sent it to the DPW has it. Nick and Dave, they came to listen to him. I think we worked with them to hear what he had to say.
We look forward to bringing Jody in and having that discussion.
Yeah.
We do. Yeah. Thank you. I believe everyone in public, good? Yes.
Liz McNeil.
Liz McNeil. Hey, how are you? 193rd Street. I just had really just one question, kind of, I guess, multi-pronged about the garbage. I had to step away for a few minutes, so maybe you talked about it, but did you look and see, or do you all know what Rumson does as far as their trash pickup? Do they do it twice a week, once a week? Do they have the same schedule we have now, or it's seasonally, we get it, in the summer, we get it twice, we get garbage picked up twice a week, the rest of the year it's once a week. I mean, are we on par with them?
You can probably look online.
We did that study. I don't have it in front of me, but we did send it to the governing body.
Liz, I couldn't answer off the top of my head what they have, but we did do the study and we also looked at whether there was any possibility to do some sort of shared service with them to, further drive down costs. But the issue becomes the timing of the end of their contract.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
Versus what we're trying to accomplish here.
Yeah, no. I wasn't even going to go there. I was just more because someone sort of whispered in my ear. They said, Rumson pays less in taxes and they get garbage picked up twice a week. And I was like, oh, okay. So I just wanted to see if you all had seen that for yourselves.
Yeah, we're go ahead.
Oh, no. And then the other thing was that as a resident of 3rd Street, I would really appreciate it if you would. I just wanted to dissuade you from turning the 3rd Street DPW into a transfer station. I heard some conversation tonight about, exploring putting garbage in the DPW. And I mean, if you want to come and live in my house, once there's garbage in the DPW, you're welcome to come. I'll switch with you. And you can live in my house and I'll live in yours. I mean, it's really having gone through it in a much bigger urban environment where they moved to transfer station into a very, very dense residential neighborhood. It's not pleasant for the people who live around it. So that's
Understand the
in
feedback.
there.
Understand the
Mayor,
feedback, please.
Mayor, I pulled up the answer to her question. Rumson picks up garbage twice a week. They pick up recycling every other week. And they have curbside pickup by appointment only twice a year.
Oh, that's interesting.
Oh, we go twice a year.
Yes, but it's January to October.
Right.
So,
Okay.
but you can schedule.
You can whenever you want, right? I got you.
Pickup, I like that. That's great. Anyhow, that's more the the taxes are not the same. We pay more in taxes, and what do they get, and what do we get? Kind of
it's just not apples to apples, though, Liz.
Right.
It's not. They have different size homes helping to subsidize their tax roll. But we understand, we all want to get the most for our money, and the comments are definitely appreciated.
Sure. Thanks, you guys. I really appreciate all the work you're doing.
Thank you. Allison?
Hi, Chris Hempstead, 53 Willow Street. Question about the farmer's market. The last, I think that we had heard, we had spoken with the team that was trying to put the farmer's market together. Very, great idea. I think everyone's really excited about it. But there was a lot of unknowns about the location. And one of the things that, from what I remember at the council meeting, was exploring the possibility of using the park and having less impact on the traffic on Willow Street. I guess, was there another meeting that was done or has there been a traffic, plan done? I mean, I saw the video on the Instagram and it's very nicely done. But given the experience we have with the school traffic, and the issues of blocked driveways and blocked traffic, there's obviously a heightened level of concern about a hasty decision to use the street over the park. So I'm just not sure where that went.
So we've discussed this pretty much every meeting, the last 6 meetings, in the public forum. The chief of police is not here right now. So I can't have him speak as far as the traffic plan. But what we did discuss was we were going to start the farmer's market in the street on Willow. And if we had a negative experience based on that, then we could certainly pivot to move it to the park if we felt that was the best scenario for the borough of Fairhaven.
Wasn't it also discussed the ruining the grass there? I think Teresa had weighed in also for some other reasons.
That's why we said we were going to start on the street.
Yeah.
Was it, though, that was the reason, was the concern for the grass?
There's a whole bunch of other reasons, but that was definitely sprinkler heads. There was a bunch of reasons. This was talked about last meeting, I think.
Okay, I didn't see it on the agenda last meeting. That's why I didn't log in. But the school uses the park for recess and for play activities. That would be about the same amount of foot traffic as the farmer's market, would it not?
This would be at the western end of the park. That's hard to say, that it would be the same.
Yeah, I can't answer that, Chris. Farmer's market sets up and people walk the same path as they go from 10 to 10. I think kids are running all over the park, but I just don't have the expertise to tell you the impact of people on the grass. I just think about the Fairhaven Fireman's Fair when everyone walks the same path.
Yeah, good point. That's a good point.
At the end of the fair, it's all beat up. So.
Yeah, that's a good point. I wouldn't disagree. The other thing that needed to just make a quick comment was if it's a wild success, okay, if everybody's gaga, and I imagine they will be, but there could be an inclination to try to increase the frequency from once a month to twice or 3 or 4 times a month. Like they do in Red Bank, which is fine in Red Bank, but if that's the case, then obviously we would, I think we would have to really take a higher look at the consideration of the location.
I agree with you. I do. I agree with you. I don't personally, I think the beauty of this in small town Fairhaven is that it's once a month. But I also don't want to box myself in and say that it would never change, because I don't know what future governing body members would want. But I feel comfortable putting on the record that if we're going to put more of a impetus on our residents in that area, then we're going to certainly have to look at the way it's set up.
And the approval, Chris, was for the once a month for 6 months?
May
Through November. So this first inaugural year will be the 6 times, and then, whatever changes that the farmer's market wants to make, going forward, that'll obviously be within the public and, for comment and for discussion, so.
Okay, great. Now, I mean, really, they've done a great job with the information on Instagram. I hadn't seen the Instagram site until tonight, and it does look really nice. But I think there's a lot of excitement around it. But we just want to make sure it doesn't get, it doesn't go the wrong way. That's all. So, okay, thank you.
Thank you, Chris. And there is merchant available. For anyone that's interested in the merch. Yeah. Allison, anyone else?
Mrs. Blazer.
Ruth? Hi, Ruth.
Good evening. A couple of things. The streetscape, the lamps that you're talking about on River Road. You did streetscape east, you did streetscape west. Now we're talking about putting up new lamps. What happened to the ones that we put up during the streetscapes?
Yeah. These are repairs.
Yeah, so we're repairing existing lamps, Ruth.
And lamps that have been, the reason I ask is in the light of environmentally friendliness and night sky, losing the dark, as it were. I know when I flew into Santa Fe, they have mushroom lights which illuminate the sidewalks. They do not shine in anybody's window. They do not shine up, and they are just wonderful. And I would suggest you consider mushroom lights. Plus, they spread the light out in a further radius because they're dedicated to doing downlight. Next subject, the brush. In the reading that I got, and I ran off the changes to section 16 of our borough code. And according to what you had said, you being the pejorative you've got a 10-day leeway for putting your brush and leaves out at the curb. Now, if we've got 4 zones, that means that somewhere in town, we're going to have leaves and brush at the curb, which to me, I think defeats your purpose. A second comment is that our little sister town next door, Little Silver, is doing completely rolling pickups. They have done away with a brush schedule, and people have not en masse put their houses on the market. I mean, it's a lovely little town, and things get picked up, and it's neat and it's clean. I don't think we need all this. I really encourage you not even introduce this tonight until you've done more fine tuning on it. Another thing it doesn't address is that there's a total disregard for residents' physical or financial ability to carry out this program. One of these things that bothers me is that a lot, and I read all of section 14, all of section 16. Most of it is dealing with aesthetics, not with safety, not with health, aesthetics, how things look. And frankly, I'm not impressed. If you didn't like the way our cans looked, you should have picked something that looked nicer. I think for seniors specifically, you should, or anybody should be able to put their brush, their trash, their recycling, their cans out on their lawn and keep them there while they use them. As long as the lids are down, they should not have to be hidden like some kind of a scourge.
Thank you, Ruth, and
oh no, I'm not finished.
Ruth, we're really trying to keep everything to 3 minutes here, and we're up at 4 minutes here. Do you have something you want to touch on?
The last comment is on the deer. You're sort of saying we're going to do something. Well, I'll tell you, the day that everybody goes out in their garden and all their plants are gone, there's going to be an uproar, because that has happened to me twice this year. If you want something the deer don't like, plant basil. My last comment is, and you said this before when you were speaking, that you were dismayed by the town not looking nice when the bulk was out.
Yeah, that's important.
Years ago, and for many years, every Saturday from 9 to 1, residents could take their bulk to the DPW yard, and there were trucks there, and there were help, because the bulk does not increase in mass. It just constricts as to the number of opportunities there are to get rid of it. And our town is, I keep saying this and nobody believes me. It's a small town. It's not Newark, it's not Jersey City, it's not even Middletown. And we hire
I think
on
we're better than
contract.
Middletown, but.
We hire on contract the people to run our DPW. And it appears now that the tail is wagging the dog. The DPW is telling the residents what they're going to do instead of the residents telling the DPW what needs to be done efficiently, economically, and whatever. I think we have to start with fresh eyes at the DPW and get this straightened out from that angle. Thank you.
Thank you.
That is it.
Okay, moving along, we have, I just want to make one comment also that I forgot to make at the beginning of the meeting, that during Good of the Borough, we have a time-sensitive grant that Councilman Cole will be discussing. Just want to give you a heads up on that. And push it to the next meeting, but we've missed the cutoff to apply. Okay. Next up, we have approval of minutes, February 5th, 2024, special meeting, regular meeting, executive session. Anyone have any questions on these? Motion to approve.
Motion.
Second. Allison, may I please have a roll call?
Yes. Pimentelli?
Yes.
Tony?
Yes.
Con?
Yes.
Rivera?
Yes.
Olson?
Yes.
Thank you. Moving along to old business. This is exciting. We have the police department community center. Did anyone see the steel up at the police department and community center this week? Wow. Love it. Thanks,
So based on my understanding of all the feedback that's come in, and chief and whatnot, the color that has been selected is the siding light mist.
Ooh.
Here,
Ah.
if everybody recalls with the open houses that we had for the PD and community center, we honed in on the gray category, and this was a further refinement of that. And the roof is, I think it's pewter gray, right there. So, we're looking to give the green light to this, and what that then will trigger is, selection of colors inside, door colors, hardware, etc. And then ultimately, after that decision point, lead into the finish boards. So.
Small, yes, I participated and went and looked, and that was my vote as well, and, the one thing though, that wasn't part of the discussions to, how we finish the siding, on the exterior, I'm just gonna look at Rich, I don't know if we specified anything specifically, if it's a mitered corner, or if we're doing, I really hope we're not doing a contrasting corner guard down on
You're talking about PD?
PD Community Center, the way the siding is. that
Yeah, we'll have to
usually
ask Eli. It was in the
Okay.
design that was approved, yeah.
Element.
Okay, I'm just gonna get you.
Yeah.
Okay. One looks good, one it's not.
We have to vote on this?
I
Is
mean,
this a vote or is
it's
this?
just consensus from,
I'm the wrong person to pick color of siding. You know, I actually would have picked white, but as we said, it's hard to clean.
yeah.
And if that's the consensus, I'm sure you all know.
Public started with gray, that's the refinement of gray colors that make the most sense, alignment with the area, et cetera. So unless there's any objection, pewter for the roof, light mist for the siding. Next
Good.
round will come with interior colors to the community center.
We're good.
All right.
Well,
Thank you.
Betsy disagrees, everyone else is good. Okay. New business, introduction of ordinances 2024-02, amend chapter 16, solid waste management, brush and leaf collection. Before I ask for motion, is there anything anyone wants to say?
Just a couple things, Mayor. So we had 2 open houses over the month of February. Phenomenal discussions. We've had refinement in the ordinance based on that. We've talked about the grace period. When it comes to, when we talked about the seniors, we had a really great discussion on Saturday and actually learned that we used to have a more robust Be a Good Neighbor program. So I circled up with Betsy on that, and we're going to reach out to Sean McNeil to see if we can reinvigorate that. There was one item on educating residents on composting. As another means, I've spoken with Michael on that, and we have a budget no cost, educate residents on how they can take compost into their own hands. Fair. And another item that came out of the open house was refining what I'll call the marketing material. And actually create an additional marketing to educate. So overall, it went well. We'll look to do more open houses in April before May. Just to make sure that that continues. We'll continue working with the communication facility, pictures, education, letters, recycling coach app, et cetera. There's a whole slew there. I know Kristen stepped out, but I don't know if they have anything else to say on the communications front, but.
Well, one of the ideas that came out of that was maybe doing a sticker like we did for the garbage for the brush cleaner, which I thought was a good idea. We'd have to look at it, but I liked that one.
So.
I mean, vegetative, what vegetative.
Pictures of what,
graphic,
yeah,
graphic,
Probably, yeah.
and what goes in and doesn't.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly, all that.
I just wanted to offer, and Ruth, you might still be with this, but Ruth is very active in the, Be a Good Neighbor program. And I know that because she recruited me and I did my bit. And my daughter and I both actively participate in that program. I think it's a wonderful idea.
Yeah,
She might
I
be
got
very
lost
helpful.
at school.
Oh, really?
In school, yeah.
Well, it was pretty active
I know.
over the winter, but it's a lovely idea and Ruth might be helpful in expanding it or renewing it as it used to be year round.
Anyone else have anything on this? Do I have where did Crystal go?
She had to leave.
Kristen left.
I did not.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Allison, may I please have a roll call?
Councilmember Paul,
Yes.
Simonelli.
Yes.
Hodge,
No.
Rivera,
Yes.
Olson,
Okay, thank you. Moving along to the consent agenda. We're talking resolutions 2024-57 through 2024-66. Before I ask for a motion, does anyone want to separate anything? Does anyone have any questions on that?
No.
Does anyone have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Allison, may I please have a roll call?
Paul,
Yes.
Simonelli.
Yes.
Hodge,
Yes.
Rivera,
Yes.
Olson.
Thank you. We're talking department reports, January 2024. Do I have a motion to accept the reports as submitted and a thank you, maybe?
Motion to accept with a thank you.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, this is the good of the borough portion of the meeting. Please stand and identify yourself by clearly stating your name and address to the record. As mentioned earlier in the meeting, we are trying to keep the time limit of these good of the borough comments to 3 minutes. Actually, you know what, before we get to that, why don't you do one of your nuts to bring out?
Okay, and Michael, we can tag team on this. The grants committee met for the first time this year on Monday, a week ago. We looked at 6 potential grants. That's what's currently in the pipeline, with more coming in all the time. So more for the council's consideration on the horizon. But for today, as the mayor mentioned, there's some urgency around one. And this has to do with this is a historic preservation related grant application. The grant is actually for a sign. And like all other municipalities who might apply for this grant, they would be applying for a sign as well. And this would be a sign in a significantly historical location along the New Jersey Black Heritage Trail. So imagine, if you will, there's signs throughout New Jersey that are part of this Black Heritage Trail. And landmarks such as Bicentennial Hall, historic chapel, qualify for this particular signage and as a suitable landmark, a local landmark that would qualify for the New Jersey Black Heritage Trail. So the council you have before you a 2-page, we call it a template or an executive summary. And I can tell you very briefly, it's hard to read it while we're going through this, but I'm summarizing it accurately in that it'd be a sign at Bicentennial Hall. There's a national and state, historic, it's on the National Registry of Historic Places for the state and federally. And it would be part of this trail. And the idea, of course, is that could be good for school programs and educational programs. It dovetails nicely with the other work and local investments that the community, as well as some of what government is doing in that location. I know on the horizon, the Bicentennial Hall stakeholder group is talking about next steps and what needs to happen without getting off onto a tangent. And the sign is a way to identify this landmark as part of a collection throughout the state. This picture here is an example of the signage. You can see on page 2.
And they create the signs for us. We just give them the verbiage.
We have to provide the documentation. There's some guidelines around that. They need primary source data, which would be great to be able to have people who we might be able to interview. Say, for example, recent that woman,
Elizabeth Taylor.
who's now gone. Thank you. Yes, Mrs. Blake. And then we have a lot of archival information, obviously, that would round out a very nice little narrative, which has to fit on a sign of this size. And that's what the application is for. This is a very simple and straightforward thing. We have a ton of data and we have some ready hands available that can compile information that we can submit if we want to do this. So our friends from the Historic Association of Fairhaven have offered to assist with accumulating that information and preparing the grant with, obviously, should the council want to do this. So that's what's before us tonight. I'll do my best to answer your questions if you have.
My only question, did we get approval of the wording on the sign?
Yeah.
Is there any corporate logo or anything because they're paying for this program? Nothing like that?
No.
Okay.
It's, this is out of the, Historic Preservation Commission.
And there's really no money, right? It's just the
No,
plaque.
correct.
And we're listed in the state and National Registry of Historic Places, which is cool. I mean, I just think it's just good PR for us. It's a great historical reference. I think it's,
Oh, yeah, 100%. Good. Very good.
That deadline is March 8th, right?
The deadline is like right as March.
Hey, I do it. We'll go to the borough.
I gotta.
You will get to work on that. You want to
Let's
vote
start with do we need to vote, Allison? On this?
for a resolution or do we need anything?
Someone's doing motions.
Okay.
Motion approved. Somebody,
Second. Motion, second.
all in favor?
Yeah.
Anyone opposed? Yeah, let's knock our jail first. Go ahead.
But yeah, 20 seconds. So the fire company had their spaghetti dinner. During it, they received a call of a vehicle crash where purportedly people were trapped. This was over at Hanson Ridge. So group left the spaghetti dinner, got there, nobody was trapped, but the cars went on fire and they had to extinguish it. Fire department did a great job and still held the spaghetti dinner. I just want to highlight their community service. They did great work.
How many meatballs?
27.
Was anyone good?
27.
I ate 27 meatballs.
No. How many meatballs did they make and serve to the community?
Like 4,000?
I want a number next meeting. We gotta get a number.
All right, can I put on a workshop?
You can.
All right.
And nobody was injured in this.
No, they thought folks were entrapped in it, so the chiefs and everybody left to get there. They got there, they weren't, but then the cars went on fire. They extinguished it, wait till they left.
Guns N' Roses made an album.
Really?
It's called The Spaghetti Incident.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, that's not bad. That's only one joke though tonight.
Right?
I would just like to remind everybody of the Foundation of Fairhaven is sponsoring their hoedown on Saturday night at the Columbus Club. We are nearing our goals, but there are still a few tickets available. There's games, there's a band, there's cornhole. One new development that I think is very enticing is that all of the participants that are pre-registered and who sign up at the door will be receiving a code for $5 off an Uber ride. So we encourage everybody to take advantage of this and to use an Uber. We have many local businesses that have donated prizes and costumes. All of the proceeds will go towards Fairhaven Day and some of our other community events, which I would just like to highlight. The foundation is a firm supporter of the Wall of Honor and contributes money for the plaques and the pictures that we put up. We've been very instrumental in playground equipment for Fairhaven, donations to the 8th grade dance, donations to the PTA, fundraisers for Bicentennial Hall, paying for the framing of the pictures at Bicentennial. So there's a lot of stuff that the foundation does for the community besides just Fairhaven Day.
Love it.
So if you can, it is Saturday night at the Columbus Club.
Thank you. Getting back to, the public, please stand and identify yourself by clearly stating your name and address for the record. Anyone in the public with a go to the borough? No. Allison, anyone online, go to the borough? Hi, Ruth.
Hey, I just have an assignment for everybody in Fairhaven who hasn't read them. Read the borough codes, paying special attention to section 14 and section 16. It's very interesting. Thank you.
Thank you, Ruth. Anyone else? That is all. Great. With that being said, we're going back into executive session. Time is 10:12. I have a motion.
Motion. To go into executive session.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Negative.
Thank you. Michael just keeps trying.
I bet you get up at 5 a.m. tomorrow, right?
I don't actually.
Oh.
I got up at 5:25, but I'm trying
got
to
a
get up a
4:40?
lot earlier.
You got a 4:40 again?
All right.
Oh.
We're still going to the now?
All right, does anyone have any motion to adjourn, the regular meeting at 11:08? Yeah, sir.
Second.
All in favor?
Hi.
Anyone opposed?
Negative.
Good night, Fairhaven.
Good night.
Peace out, Nadine.
I'll stay.